The CFL is Canada's game. And no comes after party. And we're ready for the fight.
Finds some room, breaks a couple of tackles. Ray, end zone, touchdown!
It's Friday night football tonight. It's Friday. It's Friday night football tonight. It's Friday.
Well, Danny Barrett and the Saskatchewan Roughriders started their season on a Friday night, and they're going to finish their season on a Friday night as they try to make it 3 straight wins heading into the playoffs. It's the Eskimos and the Riders on TSN Friday Night Football. Hi, everybody. Dave Randorf, Chris Schultz, Matt Dunnigan, Jock Lemmy. Final Friday, guys. You can have them free after tonight, 7 days from now. The Eskimos, as you know by now, are out of the playoffs. The Riders are locked into 3rd place in the West, but based on their win last week in Toronto, they do not look like a team that has nothing to play for or unmotivated right now. In fact, Schultz, Edmonton is the only team they have not beaten this year. What has gone right? Yeah, that's right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I looked that up. What has gone right for the Riders this year?
Dave, I'll tell you what's gone right for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. The development of that defensive line. Scott Schultz, Nate Davis, Fred Perry, and also Terrell Jariniak. They can impose a will on an entire offense and make them look average. You have to really compliment them in their games against the BC Lions and also the Montreal Alouettes. What they need to improve on is in terms of big playability, because if they get from behind, you get Ken Keith out of that game, limits the offense. Also, watch the punting game. Absolutely key tonight. Luka Kanji has to have a good game punting.
Well, this is the time of year where lots of teams actually look back and think about the season that they've had. And I think Edmonton is obviously to look back and think of things they might have done differently. And I'm not sure there's many teams in history that can actually look back and say, you know what, we're missing the playoffs for all the wrong reasons. There were at least 4 games that Edmonton could easily have won. Here's one of them, obviously. Everyone remembers this one. How about the game in BC where they were kicking a field goal in the last second? So could easily have won that game just as they put the ball down on the tee. And there was a game in Hamilton where they fumbled going down for the winning score. There was interceptions returned for touchdowns against Toronto. This team has had an opportunity this year. I think they'll be okay next year.
Yeah, and those are the games they won last year, and they lost those games this year. But they're looking forward, the Edmonton Eskimos are, under the tutelage and the guidance of Rick Lalisher. But this football team has got a lot of young guns that they're showcasing tonight in front of their home crowd, which they're 4-4 at. Not bad for the Eskimos. Here you've got a young kid by the name of Brandon Guillory. He's got 3 sacks in the last couple games. You got Stephen Giles, who's supposed to be the future of the Edmonton Eskimos behind Ricky Ray. Then Adam Braidwood, who's simply had an awesome rookie season. So a lot of young faces out there continually trying to prove themselves in front of the home crowd. So the Edmonton Eskimos are looking forward and starting to put the building blocks in place for 2007.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, their last game of the season at home, they know that they want to leave those fans, those loyal Edmonton fans, with a good taste. It's a good old rivalry. Saskatchewan and Edmonton kickoff is coming right up.
The CFL on TSN is brought to you by Wendy's, the official hamburger of the CFL. Do Wendy's, do what tastes right. By Rona, proud league-wide sponsor of the CFL. And by Rogers Wireless. Rogers brings you the latest MP3 phones.
Susan Kells of St. Albert, Alberta. You could win a 50-inch Prima Plasma TV if a kickoff is returned for a touchdown in tonight's game, thanks to Safeway's Touchdown and Win promotion. If a second kickoff is returned, you win $1 million. Let's go to Edmonton. I hope Chris and Glenn brought their woolies.
We're fine, David. And good evening, everybody. Our final Friday night telecast is the first season finale in Edmonton without a pending playoff game in 35 years. Eskimos entertaining the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And yes, it's a little chilly, and there are a few flurries mixed with rain falling at the moment, but it's late October in Edmonton, and we'll be just fine. So meet the coaches. There's Danny Barrett. He left 16 starters at home to rest for next week in the Western semifinal in Calgary. He said first time he's had that luxury in 7 years as a head coach. Danny Machocha called it a character win for his team in Montreal. It's been a long year, and he's looking for his first winning streak to end the season.
Well, whether you're playing in the Grey Cup game or the last game of the regular season, as the Edmonton Eskimos are, in a season that they won't make the playoffs, you want to win your last game. It makes for a much better off season.
Here we go, our final Friday night football telecast of the season. Dominic Dorsey, the special teams player of the week, sheds a couple of tackles and is out across the 40-yard line. Good 22-yard return, and Marcus Crandall gets his second start of the season. His first was back in mid-August, and it was abruptly ended by a dislocated left elbow against Hamilton.
Well, you mentioned the starters that have been left home by Danny Barrett. He will not have Kent Keith in the backfield. Shamar Bracey will play back there behind Marcus Crandall. And a couple of offensive linemen left behind, as well as the starting receiving corps, basically.
It'll be fun to watch a few of these Saskatchewan Roughrider backups and see how they perform. Shamar Bracey, short gain, brought down quickly. Adam Braidwood with the tackle.
Edmonton Eskimos, Rob Brown led that defensive front four that went through some different personnel throughout the season. Brown had 12 sacks on the year. You go into that linebacking course. Singor Mobley, is he playing his last game as an Edmonton Eskimo in that linebacking core? And there's the secondary. Malcolm Frank has already said he will retire after this year.
2nd and 8, Crandall to the air first time, has a completion. This guy gets better every week. Andy Fantus with the catch at a first down at the Eskimo 50-yard line.
Saskatchewan Roughriders, of course, going to the playoffs. They'll travel to Calgary in the semifinals, so these are very important reps and very important throws for Marcus Crandall should something happen to Kerry Joseph early in the playoffs. Marcus Crandall hasn't played for some time due to injury. He comes back and gets a chance to, when the game's on the line from start to finish, throw that football, the bullets flying.
The Roughriders did not score a point last week in the second half in their victory against the Argonauts in Toronto. First down, and Crandall looked one way and now to the other. And there's Joe Murphy with a catch, brought down quickly by Shannon Garrett, one of those veteran Eskimos that you don't know if they're playing their final game as an Edmonton Eskimo or not.
Well, boy, there's a lot of them on that Edmonton side, because especially on defense, there's some guys that are getting up there in age. Shannon Garrett is one. A.J. Gass, 30 years old. He says he wants to play again, would like to be back here in Edmonton. Donnie Brady getting up there over 30 as well.
2nd down and 4. Bracey straight ahead, and he'll have the first down. This game really almost about more of who is playing in Edmonton than who's not playing in Saskatchewan's lineup, because it may be the last time for some great players in Edmonton.
Well, there's some young guys, Brandon Guillory, who's played well in the last few games, and of course Adam Braidwood, that they are looking at as guys that will lead this team in the future. But there are some elder statesmen on that defense that may be playing their last game tonight as an Edmonton Eskimo, and we've mentioned a couple. Mobley, Garrett, Brady.
Crandall's got this makeshift Saskatchewan offense rolling. Bunch formation right side. Play action fake to Bracey, and wide open is Corey Grant. And Grant drops the football. And did Edmonton touch it last? Yes. J.R. LaRose after the Corey Grant fumble. So a promising start for the Roughriders, snuffed by an opening possession turnover.
The CFL on TSN is brought to you by Coors Light, the Silver Bullet, and by the all-new 2007 GMC Sierra, GMC Professional Grade.
Well, this ends the Saskatchewan drive early on. Anthony Floyd, the linebacker, hustling back, punching the ball out of Corey Grant's hands, and then one of these great young players that the Edmonton Eskimos are going to rely on. There's Anthony Floyd. Floyd played a couple seasons with the Indianapolis Colts, signed as a free agent in September, and maybe a guy for the future for this team.
Cousin of Otis, so if he's as good as Otis Floyd, they've got something.
It's good hustle from the backside to punch that ball out. And good hustle again by J.R. LaRose. And again, that's another young guy that the Edmonton Eskimos right there are very high on.
And we have a video challenge of this call. It's after a long deliberation. Danny Barrett on a bit of a win streak, but
I think that's a good play by LaRose. When they take another look at this, not a bad challenge considering where the ball is for Danny Barrett, and he doesn't want this drive to end, but you just have to be the last player to touch the ball, deliberately touch the ball before it goes out of bounds. And J.R. LaRose from that look right there is in bounds when he touches it with his left hand and knocks it out of bounds. So Edmonton Eskimos look like to me they're the last ones to touch it, and this one will stand. The official was right on the spot, but they'll take a look.
That was Al Bradbury, the head linesman. And so we do get the first challenge. Gives us an opportunity because we're going to talk about some of the issues we've seen this season. And this is one that I think was really going to be front and center as far as being scrutinized. And all in all, video review, I think, is going to get a passing grade, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we all knew, everyone in the league, the league office, the teams, everybody involved knew that there's going to be a learning curve with instant replay. But I think even the coaches that were opposed to it early on have decided that they like it. And it is a tool that has helped the officials many occasions this season. And they will iron out some of the wrinkles. And there are a couple still, but I think overall, instant replay has been a huge success for the Canadian Football League. A lot of credit goes to Sean Coates in the league office.
After review, the Edmonton player's knee was inbounds on the ground when he first touched the ball. The ruling on the field stands. Edmonton first down.
Yeah, and that's why it's there. I mean, you get the call right. The officials got it right, and there's been times when it's been overturned and the right call has been made. So that's the purpose of it. And it's been a big success this season.
So it is an Eskimo first down. They will scrimmage at their own 20-yard line. Ricky Ray and the Eskimo offense drove for touchdowns 3 of their first 4 possessions last week, and there was the hero last week, Ron McClendon, but he is brought down quickly by one of the newcomers, Lance Frazier, in the secondary for the Roughriders.
Let's look at the starting lineups for the Edmonton Eskimos on offense. And, you know, if you looked at the Ricky Ray numbers, 4,813 yards coming in, you'd think the Eskimos were on their way to the playoffs. Tucker over 1,000 yards, 1,259 and 11 touchdowns. No Daryl Mitchell in this game tonight. There's the offensive line. They experimented with Patrick Kabongo, who's gone through some growing pains this year at tackle, but should be better for it.
Starting lineups brought to you by Tums. Tums tackles Hartburn fast. 2nd and 10, Ray airing it out. Looking downfield, he's got Woodcock, who drops the ball. Well, Pat Woodcock had a drop early in the game against Saskatchewan and Regina, then had a terrific football game last time these two teams met, but he's not going to feel good about that one.
Well, he did everything right except the end, and I think at the end of this throw, he tried to catch the ball and keep running in stride, and he didn't take enough time and stay focused and concentrate on the football coming down. He just wanted to get it in his arms and turn and run. You see the head and the left arm turned around, and he didn't have control of the football. It's wet and snowy out there, and you have to take that extra second.
Got behind the newcomer, Lance Frazier, a former Dallas Cowboy, as Fleming has it go off the side of his foot at the Saskatchewan bench. So the Roughriders did turn it over, but they'll get it back with great field position.
The CFL on TSN is brought to you by the all-new 2007 GMC Sierra, GMC Professional Grade, and by Coors Light, the Silver Bullet.
Just a 23-yard punt by Sean Fleming. So Marcus Crandall and the Roughriders in good shape at the Eskimo 43-yard line. Kareem Kelly and Corey Grant are the wideouts. And they'll swing it out here. And Singor Mobley with the defensive play.
Well, there's a guy
on Dominic Dorsey.
Yeah, there's a guy who'd like to have a big game, Singor Mobley, and everyone wondering if Singor Mobley will be back with the Edmonton Eskimos. He flies over there in the hurry. Great read, Gets over there quickly. 54 tackles this season coming in for Singor Mobley. Has an interception to add to those stats.
Tackle 598 of his career, looking for a milestone in this, his 158th Eskimo game. Loss of 2, 2nd and 12. They try the other side, and a completion there to Fantus, and Shannon Garrett is not going to let him get away.
Yeah, not a surprise that these veterans for the Edmonton Eskimos are playing hard. And, you know, they want to play hard. If it is their last game as an Edmonton Eskimo, they want to go out with a win. And there's Singor Mobley's career, and it's an impressive one. 597 tackles, 21 sacks. Look at the fumble recoveries. Those sacks and fumble recoveries, interceptions means he's always around the football. He's been one of those tweener linebackers, a converted defensive back from his days with the Dallas Cowboys, and he's been a great Edmonton Eskimo.
Special teams captain in both Dallas and here in Edmonton, Tony Tompkins. He's had a tough year awaiting the Luka Kanji punt. Kanji angling, not inside the 10, but it will go out inside the 15, where the Eskimos will be backed up. Still scoreless at Commonwealth Stadium as we join Ryan Rashog on the sidelines.
Thanks, Chris. We all know Dan Comiskey is as intense on the football field as they come, but off the football field, he's a bit of a softened man, and here is why. This is his 19-month-old daughter, Lauren. Now, Lauren was born 3 months premature and suffered from kidney failure. She needs a kidney transplant. Dan found out this year that he is an eligible donor, so sometime in the next couple of years, Comiskey will donate his kidney to his daughter. When I talked to him today, he said his perspective on a bad day has really changed, guys.
Now, one of the class guys that you love to cover in this league. Nothing but respect for that man who is the top Canadian nominee from the Edmonton Eskimos this year.
And no disrespect to Joe McGrath, but probably should have been the nominee for outstanding lineman for the football team as well. I know that voters here in Edmonton likely tried to spread it around a little bit, but Dan Comiskey has been their best offensive lineman.
And as Ryan said, is softened off the field, but is there a more intense competitor than Dan Comiskey on what has become an improved offensive line late in the year? Second down, and a catch is made, a completion to Jason Tucker from Ricky Ray, and a first down.
You know, Ricky Ray has had to run more this year than any year as an Edmonton Eskimo, and you know, Danny Machocha, the head coach of the Edmonton Eskimos, experimented on that offensive line with youth, and he went with Patrick Kabongo up there, who I mentioned off the top has gone through some growing pains at tackle, and you can see once again Ricky Ray watching the ball complete from the ground. Patrick Kabongo, the time invested in Patrick Kabongo, Danny Machocha hopes will pay off next year.
First down for the Eskimos at their own 30-yard line, and the give to McClendon, who kicks it outside. Ron McClendon picking up where he left off last week. It was the green and goldie offense last week when he rambled for 198 yards in his first game of the season at Olympic Stadium.
Well, he's running against unfamiliar faces on that Saskatchewan defense tonight, because a lot of the starters not in the lineup, Scott Schultz and Terrell Jariniak and Nate Davis left home, so there's your starting. Fred Perry he's in that sack race. And again, in the linebacking core, a lot of veterans staying home. Reggie Hunt, one of them, Jackie Mitchell, another, and a secondary that you need a program to figure out who's back there. The one they want to look at is Lance Frazier.
15 for McClendon. He had 4 runs over 20 yards last week. A pass intended for Ed Hervey is incomplete. But Ron McClendon, I'm sure, earned an invitation to training camp next year because of last week and those gaudy numbers he put up against the Alouettes.
And it's the story that you love to talk about, because this is one of the guys that works in the organization in the offseason, but during practice, during the year, is on the practice roster all year long and working hard and trying to make the team better from the practice roster. And you love to see guys like that have success when they do get a chance to play. And boy, did he ever last week.
Credited Troy Davis with helping him, even though he's been behind Davis all season long. And McClendon with a catch out of the backfield, and he will be less than a yard short of the first down.
You know, after that game, he was very emotional, Ron McClendon, after 198 yards, and he says, You know, he said he was almost in tears because of all the hard work he put in during the year to have a big game. And that's, you know, you invest everything you got when you're playing football, emotionally, physically, and to have Ron McClendon have a good game. I think all of his teammates were real happy for him. He gets out there and works real hard every day to make the team better.
You know, it was the second best rushing performance in Edmonton Eskimo history. Only Sean Millington against Saskatchewan in 1999 had more rushing yards in a game for the Edmonton Eskimos. Didn't get a great spot right at the 54, so it's a full yard. And 3rd and 1, and Ray didn't get a good surge initially, but does push ahead for the first down.
Ricky Ray keeps himself an Eskimo first down.
You know, Ricky Ray, this season, if he can get it going here in this game tonight, we'll hit that 5,000-yard mark. He leads the Canadian Football League in yardage, and then that's even if you add up Buck Pierce and Dave Dickinson in BC together. So Ricky Ray, number 1 in 2006. You look at those numbers, you think this has got to be a first or second place team. But there was a lot of other reasons why this team did not make the playoffs this year.
Eskimos 3rd in yards, 2nd in passing yards. That ball tipped. Is it picked off? TJ Stansel diving for it, but unable to bring it in.
You know, the thing about Ricky Ray, though, is this team, the Edmonton Eskimos, look to the future, and there's going to be lots of changes in this organization when you look at personnel. Danny Machocha said that yesterday in the press conference. But the good news that they have, and the fans here in Edmonton have, is that they have a star quarterback to build around. And not every team can say that. Ricky Ray, as we know, can lead a team to a championship, as he did a year ago and has done in the past. So that's the good news for Edmonton fans.
Ray 171 yards short of a 5,000-yard season. Looking to bite into that here. Looking deep for Ed Hervey. And a battle for the football. This one has been picked off.
Well, if it's a simultaneous catch, it goes to the offensive player, Ed Hervey. And they're discussing whether or not Ed Hervey was in that scrum and had his hands on the ball long enough.
Well, James Johnson ended up with it in his hands. And we'll take another look.
Simultaneous catch goes to the offense. Johnson has it there, but Ed Hervey's fighting for it and has his hands around it, and they're on the ground, so he would be down by contact. It looks like this should be Ed Hervey catch.
And it is. After a conference, they are ruling that this is an Ed Hervey catch. Saw one of these earlier this year in Winnipeg, and again, it looks like Johnson yanked the ball out of Hervey's hands after they were on the ground, and Danny Barrett is prepared to throw the flag, but he's going to conference with Jake Ireland first.
Yeah, he wants to know if this is a reviewable play where he can actually ask for a replay to see if the ball was intercepted. But this is a judgment call by the officials, I believe, in that whether or not it was a simultaneous catch, meaning simultaneous catch goes to the offense. That's what Danny Barrett's discussing right now.
The play is not reviewable.
Yeah, anytime there's a judgment call by the officials, it's not a reviewable play. Danny Barrett hates it, but it was up to the official to decide whether or not Ed Hervey had his hands around the ball long enough, and then they went to the ground. Was he down by contact? And in the opinion of the officials, he did. But that look we just saw, it looked like Johnson had pulled it out. Now they're down there.
They're down, and Hervey still has his hands on it, so
yeah, that's true.
I think he would have lost that challenge. It is a 47-yard gain for Ed Hervey, another who may be playing his final game in Edmonton, and the challenge flag's been thrown anyway.
Yeah, he wants another explanation, and we talk about instant replay and how successful it's been this year. And this is one of the kinks that has to be worked out. It is that coaches, as the year has gone on, have used instant replay and this little timeout here to their advantage. And they know, Danny Barrett knew that's not a reviewable play, but he wanted to stop the game for a second to get another explanation. There you go.
Saskatchewan beds, half the distance to the goal line.
I believe
first down.
But I believe that's the first time we've seen this year. So I believe George Black and the officials have kind of taken this matter into their hands.
Yeah, and this is the first time, but this is also the first time that the coach has had the whole situation explained to him, told it wasn't reviewable in Danny Barrett, and then threw the flag after anyway, so it's a penalty for it.
So now it's 1st and goal inside the 5. McClendon with a double clutch and a touchdown. Ronald McClendon.
Yeah, he's just playing hard. You know, you can't coach desire. That's something you just have it or you don't. There he is in the backfield, takes that. So look at that little shuffle. That's a nice little move, good vision to the outside, and then just hits that hole and finds the end zone.
Second touchdown in as many weeks for McClendon. And the Eskimos strike first after the controversial Hervey catch. Fleming puts it through. And with 3:34 to go, first quarter, it's the Eskimos on top. Catch Wendy's CFL on TSN tomorrow night. Big game for the Blue Bombers as they take on the Lions in BC. Coverage begins at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. And a Winnipeg win will book them a home field playoff game at second place in the East. 9 plays, 91 yards, capped by McClendon's 4-yard run.
I think he got a block here from Dan Comiskey, who we just talked about. McClendon gets outside. Joe McGrath gets a nice block as he opens up the door. Dan Comiskey got his. That was the little crease that Ron McClendon needed, and he hits it hard for the touchdown.
That's the drive that we're looking for every single time we pick the field.
There's Craig Yeast, the former Hamilton Tiger Cat, recently brought in to the reserves of the Roughriders as a return man, but it's Dorsey once again, and Dorsey is taken down at the 30-yard line. Matt Bertram, one of the first down for the Eskimos.
You know, I said Dan Comiskey should have probably been offensive lineman, and I meant no disrespect to this guy, Joe McGrath. Again, another young player just in his 3rd year in the CFL. Watch the block he gets. Little piece there, and then he gets that kick-out block on the outside. That's the block that springs Ron McClendon, and Joe McGrath is another guy that the Edmonton Eskimos have experimented with. Dan Comiskey is the veteran. Joe McGrath, another young guy that they feel over time these guys are going to pay off in a big way.
But I agree with you. If he's the top Canadian, he's got to be the top offensive lineman.
Absolutely.
Here's Bracey trying to cut outside and just a yard across the 30 for Shermar Bracey.
You know, Danny Barrett was faced with a decision, as you mentioned off the top, Chris, that he hasn't had to make during his time as the head coach of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, to rest players. And, you know, a lot of people will say, you know, that's not good. Why would he do that? You know what? He earned it. Right. This football team earned it. You got guys that are kind of nicked up. He played all the starters in Toronto. They won that game on the road. They're here in the cold in Commonwealth. A lot of young players get a chance to show what they got here.
So Kenton Keith, one of many left at home. Bracey is the tailback, 2nd down and 10. And coming back to the football, a catch for Kareem Kelly, the former USC star, his 2nd game. Let's see where they spotted. He'll be just short of the 1st down. Here's a guy that caught a pass in every game at USC, an NCAA record, 48 straight games with a catch.
He's in for Matt Dominguez tonight, who is back in Regina. Here's a guy, Kelly, that could show what he can do. You know, Craig Yeast is also in the lineup for Saskatchewan, has just signed recently as a little depth in the return game. But Craig Yeast, there's a guy whose career may be on the bubble in a big way. He gets a chance tonight. He can make a couple big plays and say, you know what, I'm worth another look. Not by Saskatchewan next year, maybe a different team.
Kanji kicking it away, and Tony Tompkins. And Tompkins running the wrong way and dropped for a loss back at the Eskimo 35. Loss of 4 for Tompkins on the punt return. Ron McClendon, right side, great run, but the flag is flying.
Well, whoever got that holding call was probably trying to block Fred Perry. And what a season that Fred Perry has had for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. 14 sacks, and he asked Danny Barrett to play in this football game when he was resting the veterans.
Holding.
He wanted to rest Fred Perry.
Edmonton number 64. 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
And Fred Perry, who is in a race right now with Brent Johnson, the BC Lions, for the sack title, said, I'd like to play in that last one, maybe get a couple more stats and see if I can win that race.
He's got some stats. 14 sacks, which is second to Johnson. 8 tackles for losses. 9 knockdowns, an interception, and 46 tackles in the first 17 games. He's been a monster.
Dominant. Dominant is the word I think of.
First and 20 after the penalty. We'll look into Hervey, into traffic, and nowhere to go for Ed Hervey.
You know, and Brent Johnson for the BC Lions nominated in 2 categories this year in the awards, Canadian and Defensive Player. Fred Perry is going to give him a run for that Defensive Player award. And only one of them can come out of the West, because that's how dominant Fred Perry has been this season. He's the first guy to make contact on that hitch screen to the outside.
Marcus Adams finishes him off, but he, like Brent Johnson, makes the other guys along that line better football players. Second down and a bunch, and it's dropped off to McClendon. Made the first 2 miss, and Stancil will finally upend him at the 35, back to the original line of scrimmage.
And you know what else a guy like that, like Fred Perry or Brent Johnson, a guy like that will do? This is what you have to do offensively when you have Fred Perry. You can't leave him one-on-one all the time. You can see the 2 Edmonton Eskimos there that have to pay attention to Fred Perry, Joe McGrath and Dan Comiskey, both looking at number 41. When you can draw a double team, that's when your teammates get one-on-ones. That's when they can have the big games.
Sean Fleming back in to punt. 23 yards to his first. This one on the ground and bouncing into the arms of Dorsey inside his 30. And Dorsey with a short return. That's the final play of the opening quarter. A 46-yard punt by Fleming. And after 15 minutes, Eskimos with the lead. 7-0 Eskimos. First quarter stats brought to you by Rhoda, proud league-wide sponsor of the CFL.
Well, Ron McClendon's got things going for the Edmonton Eskimos, but it's that time of year. The snow is falling. It's late October. It's more defensive football. You know that the playoffs are right around the corner.
Here's a stat I find hard to believe. First time in 29 years, 30 years, 29 straight years, Edmonton finished ahead of Saskatchewan. It's a little strange to be here on a regular season finale and not thinking postseason in Edmonton.
Well, you know, of course, that streak of 34 straight years in the playoffs comes to an end this year. And when you look back on the season for the Eskimos, I really don't think they recovered when Milt Stegall went 100 yards on the last play of the game. That, to me, was the turning point of this season for the Edmonton Eskimos.
Well, they were 2-2 with the lead in that game, ready to go to 3-2. Ended up losing. Then they lost 3 straight, which I think is evidence that they did have trouble recovering. Here's Saskatchewan going to work on offense. And a completion, a catch. Craig East with his first as a Saskatchewan Roughrider.
Well, if you go back to that game, it was 2nd and 100 for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. 2-2 the Eskimos at this time, and Stegall broke their hearts and went 100 yards untouched. Complete shock, the entire Edmonton bench, and I don't believe psychologically that football team ever recovered from a defensive call from Rick Campbell that was scrutinized big time after that. Psychologically, this football team never recovered from that one play.
2nd and 7, and they flare it out. Dorsey, incomplete. Well, we talked to the head coach. You saw him agonizing over that play, and we talked to him about the impact that play had on the season.
You start wondering what kind of an effect that Winnipeg game had on this ball club on the last play of the game, where Milt Stegall scores from 100 yards out. Clearly, we weren't able to rebound, and what made matters even worse is that we carried it into BC, and a botched exchange between Inglis and Johnson, and we're not able to put the ball through the upright in a game that was, winnable.
Flags down as Guillory will be called for the illegal block on the Tompkins return. But yeah, they went 2-3 with the loss, the Stiegel game, losing 3 straight. They've actually beat Saskatchewan. Then they go into BC. Look like they finally are back on track. And Danny Machocha mentioned the botched field goal that cost them a win there. And strike 3 was back-to-back losses against Hamilton.
Edmonton number 41. 10-yard penalty. First down.
And that's what Danny Machocha was talking about, how it affected the team psychologically, because teams either find a way to win or find a way to lose. So here this is how it started. Stiegel goes 100. We'll show you that one more time. That leads to this. In BC a few weeks later, a botched snap with a chance to win a close football game. They lose twice in a row to the Hamilton Tiger Cats and Jason Moss. And that was the season for the Edmonton Eskimos, and the reason they will not be in the playoffs.
Ricky Ray over the middle, second catch of the game for, check that, I believe, third catch of the game for Ed Hervey. Also the 47-yarder. The 7-year veteran who says he's staying in Edmonton, whether they want him to play for the Eskimos again or not. But if this is his last game, he says, I'm going to have some fun, and if I get to the end zone, I'm going to dance.
Just shy of 1,000 yards this year for Ed Hervey, 811 yards, and told me yesterday that he wants to play again next year. And he'd love, his first choice would be the green and gold here in Edmonton, but if it's not, he is going to go and find a place to play.
13 that time for Hervey. Back to the ground, McClendon changing direction, but hauled down. That's Kyle Mitchell, one of the 3 newcomers, if you will, on that front 4 with Fred Perry.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of newcomers up there. And Kyle Mitchell gets a chance to get some playing time. And he is unblocked coming off the corner. Just gets just enough of Ron McClendon.
Now, just a word on the guys that were left at home. That's an impressive front 4. Jariniak, Schultz, Davis, licking their wounds from 17 tough games. They'll be ready next week.
I'll tell you, that's a team. You look at that front 4 and their offensive line. I mean, Terrell Jariniak, Scott Schultz, Nate Davis, and Fred Perry up front. I mean, that is one of the best D lines in the league.
Ron Este, one of the best D linemen who has played in this league. Ron Este.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ron Este is the leader of that group. And then you look at their offensive line. When they get Fred Childress and Andrew Green will be back, Gene Mikowski, Jeremy O'Day, Charles Thomas. These guys, because of the play in the trenches and how good they are in the trenches, they can make some noise in the playoffs.
The Alston catch came up short of the first down. And it's Fleming. Dorsey letting it bounce. Good play by Dorsey, letting it get into the end zone. And a no yards flag flies. We'll see if they decline the penalty and give up the point. Likely 8-0 Eskimos. We're in Edmonton. 7-0 Eskimos here early in the second quarter on a touchdown run by Ron McClendon. And they have taken the single point, 8-0 now. And the Roughriders will take the ball at their 35-yard line. Declining the no yards. Bracey straight ahead, a good power run of 7 for Shermar Bracey, brought down by A.J. Gash and Anthony Floyd. Well, TSN is your home for NFL Sunday and Monday Night Football. This Sunday, it's Dallas taking on the Panthers in Carolina with a quarterbacking controversy in the Cowboys camp. It starts at 7 Eastern. Then Monday, New England and Minnesota scoring off at 7:30 Eastern. Both games also available in TSN HD.
They have more than a quarterback controversy. They have a receiver controversy every week. And
they got ownership, coaching controversies. And Jake Ireland tosses a flag.
You know, I mentioned that Marcus Crandall's getting some valuable reps here. But maybe more importantly for Danny Barrett and the Saskatchewan Roughriders heading into that playoff game is they're getting a chance to rest Kerry Joseph.
Before the flag was thrown, the Saskatchewan head coach, requested a team timeout. Therefore, there is no penalty on the field. We have a 30-second timeout.
You know, and Marcus Crandall still remains the only quarterback in recent years, since 2000 as a matter of fact, to have winning records for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And he's at 6-3. Kerry Joseph has scratched his way to 500 at 7-7. And he might be a nice change. Remember, he has Grey Cup experience. He has playoff experience. And going into a playoff game to have a sharp Marcus Crandall makes the Saskatchewan Roughriders better. Should Kerry Joseph have some problems early in a playoff game, they can maybe go with a series or two with a different style quarterback in Marcus Crandall.
Practicing for 3 weeks. Remember, he was the surprise Labor Day starter last year that seemed to get Saskatchewan's season turned around. Second and short. And Bracey once again with a first down.
Not to mention this football team, Saskatchewan, as they go into this playoff game in a week's time, they are a running football team. They're run-first football team, and it starts at the quarterback position. Kerry Joseph, who probably won't play tonight, is a running quarterback. They thrive on that. They're going to go with Kent and Keith. They're going to try and establish the run. That's what they've done. That's been the signature for Danny Barrett, standing right beside Kerry Joseph in the jacket there. So a healthier Kerry Joseph helps him.
Best rushing team in the CFL, averaging over 135 yards a game. 1st and 10, and Crandall looking downfield, jump ball, and incomplete. J.R. LaRose had a shot at it.
You know, J.R. LaRose has got better. He's got the fumble recovery already for the Edmonton Eskimos this one tonight. He has just improved every single game out. Watch his range right here as he just goes to the football from that center field position. He reads the quarterback, goes on the throw and the throwing motion. Nice angle, gets right to the football, doesn't catch it, but this guy's got better every single game, and they've got a keeper in the middle of that defensive secondary in J.R. LaRose.
Former Edmonton Husky, 2 times a national junior champion with them, a Strathcona high school star here. He was a not-whole-game kid who used to watch the Eskimos through the fence as a kid. And now in the middle, and he may be there for a long time. 2nd and 10. Crandall dumps it off. Here's Kareem Kelly coming across. He drops the football. And finally, the Eskimos get on it. And it's Rob Brown, the Defensive Player of the Year in Edmonton, with the fumble recovery. Saskatchewan Roughriders been good at preserving the football this year, but that's their 2nd fumble of the game. Roughriders coming in 2nd best in the giveaway category in the Canadian Football League. But the fumble recovery by Rob Brown sets the Eskimos up just inside the Saskatchewan 50. And that pass knocked down, and it's Fred Perry getting his paw on that one.
Let's go back to that fumble out on the outside by Kareem Kelly. That ball is knocked loose by Jonte Buell, comes up and puts a pretty nice hit on Kelly. As he comes down here, he puts the helmet, tackles the football, and then it's recovered by Rob Brown. Give the Eskimos great field position, and it's what Kareem Kelly wants to avoid if he wants to make an impression, not only the head coach, but the general manager watching at home, and Eric Tillman.
Ricky Ray is 90 yards away from 5,000 on the season. 2nd and 10, has lots of time, and overthrows Pat Woodcock.
Yeah, that one he just kind of threw up over top and a little bit behind him. If he led Pat Woodcock out in front, he may have had a chance. Of course, Pat Woodcock dropped one in the first series when he was in behind coverage.
Not sure if he'll get 2 quarters or whether he'll be left in until he gets 5,000. We expect to see Jason Johnson and Stephen Giles, who looked good in his CFL, well, his first real CFL action last week in Montreal. Fleming to Dorsey from the Saskatchewan 10. And tripped up. Mike Mauer's been great all year in special teams, his 23rd special teams tackle. Well, be sure to check out the new TSN Interactive, brought to you by Molson Canadian. can play along with tonight's game, chat with other viewers, play games, and answer skill testing trivia. Just go to tsn.ca. Well, this is the third meeting of the year between these two teams. Saskatchewan looking for its first win. The Eskimos prevailing 24-18 here and 30-25 at Mosaic Stadium in a game that finished with almost the play of the year. Marcus Crandall on a roll and passing downfield to Andy Fantus. William Loftus with the tackle. Fantus has 3 catches on the night.
And hey, last week, win for the Saskatchewan Roughriders in Toronto. Andy Fantus was a first for him as a starter in the receiving corps for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. He led the team. 33 yards, had a touchdown in that game, and has established himself in the starting lineup and will be very valuable down the stretch and into these playoffs because he's got great hands and can make that clutch catch for a first down.
He's got to play for bonuses now to pay for the 67 tickets last week at the Rogers Center. Here's Kareem Kelly coming around the end, and we've got a flag down as he's forced out at the Eskimo bench. He'll be marked out at the 45, close to 6. And tonight we've got Donald Brady mic'd up. Here's our sounds of the game.
Here we go. Here we go. Same way, Frank. Yeah. I like that. On me, listen on me. I didn't know if it was live or not. I got you. I'm just trying to play hard, baby.
And he always plays hard.
Yeah, and we may not have enough tape for Donald Brady at the sounds of the game because he plays hard. He does a lot of the talking. And so we'll look forward to the rest of that for the rest of this game. And he's one of these guys that is also a guy that's getting up there in age, and you wonder about his future with the Edmonton Eskimos as they look to next year.
Holding call against the Roughriders. Weren't given a culprit, I don't believe, so we'll just call it 1st and 20. Crandall has time, looking again for Fantus. Over the shoulder catch. Another big grab by the rookie. And he did it over Donnie Brady, down to the Eskimo 51.
Yeah, you know, and this is what I'm talking about with Marcus Crandall and his ability to come in as a change-up, drop-back pocket passer. This is a pinpoint throw over the shoulder of Andy Fantus. There's only really one place that Marcus Crandall can put this ball, outside and over the top, because Donald Brady is in a perfect trail position. That's good coverage. He's in a trail there, and that ball has got to drop over the outside shoulder. And what a throw from Marcus Crandall.
Already the best game of the season for the 2005 Heck Creighton Trophy winner. He had 51 yards earlier this year at home against Toronto. And now out there again, he's got a season-high matching 5th catch.
You know, you gotta love when these two teams play against each other, because Saskatchewan Roughriders have their playoff spot locked up. They know where they're gonna finish in the Western Division, and the Edmonton Eskimos know they're out of the playoffs, and this is their last game. These two teams still battle it out. Whenever they play each other, there's that rivalry. There's Saskatchewan fans in the stands, and they still battle.
Roughriders with just 201 net yards of offense last week against Toronto. Crandall's got the moving here. And straight ahead, Gracie slipped, and Mobley was right there anyway. And that will be tackle number 599 for Singor Mobley.
Singor Mobley, Malcolm Frank want to finish strong. Those guys want to finish strong. And Mobley is having himself one of his better games of the year already.
I believe they may have just announced that was 600. And congratulations to Mobley hitting a milestone. 2nd and 10. Crandall, the receiver slipped but gets up. And does Fantus get credit for the catch? A lot of Eskimo officials waving it off. And they're marking it. And
let's take another quick look at it, because the officials are marking that it's a catch. And a lot of the Eskimos right now are looking at the replay screen here at Commonwealth Stadium. looked like Fantus had slipped for a second, but it looked like from that look he's got that catch.
Nothing wrong with that. He's closing in on his first ever 100-yard game. Call those hands vacuum. Well, that was a different look. And
snuck through the back door there a little bit.
That may result in the challenge flag from the Eskimo sidelines.
Boy, from that angle, it looked like he had it locked up, but then when you look at it from behind, it looked like, did he have control when the back tip of that ball touched the ground? Right there. Like, is that control? Now, the way they've called this season, you have to have good control of the football.
Is challenging the ruling on the field of a completed pass. They believe the pass was incomplete. I will review it.
And this, by the way, Chris, is one of my, if I could have a wish list for next year, is one of the things that I hope the Rules Committee in the offseason will take a good hard look at, and how they rule as to what is a catch and what is not a catch.
Seems like a simple concept, but it has been a controversial topic throughout this season, and it began really in Game 1, BC Saskatchewan.
Absolutely, and it is the most reviewable play all year. This is the one that's been reviewed more than any other play this season, has been whether or not the receiver has caught the ball or not. Rule complete or incomplete. We can cite many examples this year, and it's all about the interpretation of what is a catch and what isn't. The officials this year, I think, have made it tough on receivers. I think there's been lots of catches that I have thought have been catches that have ruled incomplete.
However, I don't think this is one of them, is it?
No, I don't think it is. I'm not sure he has control as it slips through and then touches the ground, but that's one. And the other rule is on the special teams, and I know they changed it this year with the blocking and making the player 2 planes instead of 4 planes, and we've talked about that many times, but I really hope they look at that as well and go maybe back to the old system so we can see some more returns by the guys like Tony Tompkins and the great returners in the CFL.
But you know, we needed a couple looks ourselves before we had the incriminating evidence, which is why video replay's been great, because it does give Jake Ireland and the rest of the guys different angles to see the play.
The pass did in fact touch the ground before the receiver gained full control of it. It is an incomplete pass. We will return to the 40-yard line, where it'll be 2nd and 10.
Fantus trying to plead the case that he had it tucked under the arm.
He says he had control, and again, you know, that's this video review system. When you look at the numbers this season, reviewable challenges 63 this year, decisions upheld 43, decisions overturned 20, now 21. And that's one thing that I think needs to be looked at as well. Obviously, that's part of the growing pains, because the average time at 2:42 is too long. They need to try and shorten that down so they don't extend the game. But you see the complete, incomplete down at the bottom. The most reviewed play this year has been whether or not a ball is caught or not caught, 52.3%. And that just indicates that that's something the Rules Committee has to look at and make sure they're clear and concise on what is the catch for next year.
It's 3rd down, the ball at the Edmonton 40, and the punt unit comes on. This is one area that might concern Danny Barrett coming into the postseason. Luka Kanji, his average punt, 38.2. There are 3 teams in the league that have better net punt than 38.2. Saskatchewan's net, 32.8.
Yeah, not a good one again, although he's trying to angle it.
And Tompkins can't get a return on that angled punt. Just 30, but no return. Well, let's look a little further into the catch dilemma this season.
Again, it's been the interpretation of the officials, and we'll give you some examples. Early on, Saskatchewan and BC, many thought that was a catch by Jamal Richardson, ruled incomplete. Here comes Paris Jackson over the middle. You know, you think when the receiver tucks the ball under his arm that it's ruled a catch. That one may be the most controversial in a big way, because the Calgary Stampeders were driving against Toronto there, and that ruled incomplete as well. So they have been consistent, the officials, but it seems to me they've gone too far in one direction, and that is to maintain possession too long. I mean, I think those were catches across the board.
Here's McClendon straight ahead, and not much there against that revamped front four of Saskatchewan. But all in all, we believe that it's been good for the league, and this was probably the best example, with apologies to Blue Bomber fans, but yeah, this call on review gave the Argos a winning touchdown when initially he'd been ruled out.
That's what instant replay is all about. You're right inside the booth. That's what the officials look at. That's what it's been. It was an experiment this year. It has worked tremendous, and that play to Arland Bruce is why you have it. And they'll work out the kinks as it moves forward.
2nd and 8, Ray over the middle, ball tipped, and a penalty marker has been thrown.
Because just imagine, though, you have that Arland Bruce play, and you know, again, we don't want to pick on this because it's Winnipeg. They meet in the playoffs possibly, but you talk about a playoff game or a Grey Cup game, a catch like that, to get the call right in a big game.
Edmonton number 56. That penalty is declined. 3rd down.
To get that call right in a big game is all that anyone wants, the teams and the officials.
Because there's no video replay, just, you project that game goes the other way. The Bombers actually the first place team in the East are playing for first. Yeah. But they got the call right, and that's why video replay is being embraced by most CFL observers. And I think it's won over a lot of people who were doubtful about its success possibilities. Fleming gets it away, and Dorsey gives Saskatchewan great field position, maybe better than that. Dominic Dorsey stopped inside the 5. The special teams player of the week twice this year. Rips off a huge return, and when we come back, the Roughriders threatening.
Watch Dominic Dorsey attack the football like this. He's moving forward as he comes underneath this punt. These guys have to be fearless in the return game so that when he catches that football, he's moving forward north-south, and that's why he springs that one for a big one.
Longest punt return of the season for Dominic Dorsey. 48 yards. The ball at the 3-yard line. 1st and goal. Dorsey, the tailback in the eye. The give to Bracey. Rob Brown right there. Bracey with 1.
Well, this is where it gets down to A.J. Gass against the Saskatchewan running game, and he's one of the best in the middle, one of the toughest that you'll find at the middle linebacker position. And A.J. Gass has had a tough year in a lot of ways. Training camp. Missed games because of the death of his mother. Played 7 games this year due to injury.
2nd and goal from the 1. Randall, touchdown. Nice fake on the option run for a Saskatchewan major.
This is the type of play you'd expect from Kerry Joseph if you're the Edmonton Eskimo defense. Maybe not Marcus Crandall, but executed well because Crandall comes along the line of scrimmage and he knows he's optioning the end man. A.J. Gass buries himself in the line. Donald Brady steps up and misses the tackle, and Marcus Crandall beats him inside to get to the end zone.
Cronje on to add the extra point. Rocky Butler, the holder. It's through. It's a 1-point game with 2:22 to go in the 2nd quarter in Edmonton. Well, our final Friday night, we want to salute the guys back in the studio for an all-star season. Randorf, Schultz, Dunnigan, and Climby. The Big Four will be weighing in on what they've seen in the first half.
Yeah. So boys, get out of your hot tub in the studio there. I know they're sitting in that one. Then get out of that because you only got a couple minutes before you're back on.
Nice of Dave to be concerned about the temperature here tonight, but
the hot tub here in Edmonton, there's Nutty and then there's Wacky. They went past Nutty right to Wacky now, getting in that hot tub tonight.
Tony Tompkins would like to answer with a return of his own up to the 40-yard line as we take another look at Marcus Crandall's second touchdown of the season.
This is all about trust. Let's do a little football here. Look at Marcus Brady here. Go ahead and run it, guys. Or excuse me, Donald Brady. Watch how he steps out here. Marcus Crandall now has some option. And Brady has to get on the inside knowing that in behind him is Singor Mobley that is in charge of the pitch. That's just trust in the teammate beside you. Donald Brady didn't trust that Singor Mobley could get there. He went too far outside, and Marcus Crandall got up inside him for the touchdown.
Here's McClendon falling on the slick, natural surface here at Commonwealth.
You know, when we talk about rule changes, this is what we're talking about when we talk about the blocking that has changed. I think has changed the game this year in that return teams don't get enough of these kind of returns because blockers are tentative and they're not sure what's going to be a penalty. They haven't been this year. We haven't seen enough of those Dominic Dorsey type returns that set up that big run. We need to get back to last year's rules, I believe, so that we can see more of those returns and some more exciting special teams in the Canadian Football League.
Certainly will be under review in the offseason. Here's Hervey. Another catch for Ed Hervey. And wrapped up and brought down. Anton McKenzie with the tackle for Saskatchewan.
Ed Hervey told me yesterday that he will find a team to play for if the Edmonton Eskimos want to go in another direction. And I believe that Ed Hervey can play another couple of years. He says he's healthy. He feels real good. He went through some injury problems over the last couple of years, but he feels fine now. And there's a guy that I think can contribute to another team if the Eskimos go in a different direction.
Third and a yard, and Ray, not much on that surge. I'm not sure. Saskatchewan thinks they're sure. Third and a yard, they were successful earlier, but Danny Barrett anticipating his team's turn this over on downs.
Offense on their way on the field right now.
Remember, that front has been almost entirely revamped for this game.
Well, and on a third down gamble, the spot of the football is a reviewable play.
They got a good spot.
And they're going to get it.
And Coach Barrett looks puzzled. You know, just a final thought is, even Danny can smile about that.
Yeah.
About Ed Hervey and Singor Mobley, and this is just one guy's opinion, but I think the veterans are taking some heat for what's happened here, and maybe there weren't just enough good new players, young players coming in. Because guys like Mobley and Hervey and the like can still play. McClendon can't bring that in.
Well, you know, there's the three key guys, probably the biggest names that are getting up there, and there they are, Hervey, and you can see the numbers, Daryl Mitchell in his 30s as well, and Singor Mobley, who we've talked about. Now, I know Danny Machocha has said that there will be lots of changes. When you don't make the playoffs, there's always changes. In fact, if you win the Grey Cup, there's some changes, but certainly there'll be changes with the Eskimos. They do have to be careful, however, because you can't just vacate the locker room of veteran talent. You got to make sure that there's guys in the room to lead the team.
2nd and 10, and Ray hit as he delivers, but Pat Woodcock has a catch in traffic and a first down with T.J. Stencil on his back.
Nice catch by Woodcock over the middle, but I just wanted to continue with Ed Hervey for just a second. You know, Hervey and I had a long conversation yesterday about that leadership in the room, and over the last couple of years and this year when things haven't gone well, the media every single time go to Ed Hervey. That is very difficult. Probably not talked about enough.
First down, Ray rolls, has time to fire downfield, and no one there. Jason Tucker, closest man to it, incomplete.
You know, and he becomes the sort of the spokesperson for the football team. He's got to be the guy, and believe me, you know, I've been there in my career back in the old days when the media comes to you all the time after a loss, and you have to put on the brave face. You have to go in there and represent the team and talk about why you lost, and a lot of criticism towards some of these older players on the football team. Ed Hervey shouldered all of that responsibility for this team. He also led the group. He also was the first guy to stand up and talk to them when they needed that talking to, and they would miss him if he's not back.
2nd and 10. McClendon releases, and Ray rolls and throws incomplete. He was trying to hook up once again with Jason Tucker.
You know, it's difficult to throw the football tonight with the conditions, and Ricky Ray, he just added to the degree of difficulty by rolling to his left. You can see how Tucker slips and falls. The footing becomes difficult. The ball's a little slick. The ball, that's another topic of discussion.
Yeah. There's lots to wrap up this year.
Yeah.
Where did the season go, by the way? Hard to believe it's our final Friday night. We're in the final minute of the first half here in Edmonton, a 1-point game, and Sean Fleming looking for the coffin corner. He may have it.
Oh, that could be good.
Or did it go in? Dorsey trying to plead the case.
Whoa,
that it went out.
Oh, 1
He's
yard
not going to win it. At the one, a little piece of kicking perfection from Sean Fleming. There's another veteran, Sean Fleming, who's had a tough year, but that was perfect. 43 yards into the corner, and the Roughriders at their one, thanks to number 11. 21 seconds remaining. And of course, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, one of 6 teams still in the hunt to play in the 2006 Grey Cup game in Winnipeg, and you still have a chance to get your tickets for the game on the 19th of November.
Yeah, and you know, if I'm in Winnipeg, I'm getting my tickets. In fact, I'm getting a couple of extras, because if Saskatchewan somehow makes it through the playoffs, they have to go the long way because they're the traveling team. Calgary will host the semifinal, BC will host the final. Saskatchewan has to go the long route. But if they do, well, you're going to have 10,000 Saskatchewan people showing up in a hurry looking for tickets.
So what you're saying is you go from the broadcast booth to the scalpers spot.
And they'll go for big bucks, too, I tell you that.
Second down sneak, and inside 20 seconds to go, so the Riders can run out the clock. Oh, the Eskimos did have their timeout. I thought they had used it. Danny Machocha is going to force them into a punt situation here, and they may get the ball back in field goal position.
Absolutely, or may get the 2 points if Danny Barrett decides to just give them 2 rather than that field goal position. Although in these kind of conditions, if you can get a decent punt, Tony Tompkins can get contained by the Saskatchewan cover team, then even a 30 to 40 yard field goal is a tough one to make in these kind of conditions.
Okay, Coach, do you give them 2 or do you make them kick for 3 on a wet field? We'll see what Danny Barrett does.
I'd give them 2. I'd give them 2 than 3, or potentially more if Tompkins breaks it.
Yep. You and the coach think alike. And Kanji will step out. Took 5 seconds more off the clock, and 2 points gives Edmonton a 10-7 lead with a dozen remaining in the opening half.
You know, and just one more thing about that Grey Cup deal, and the tickets, there's still some tickets available. And we talk about Saskatchewan. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers may be the most dangerous team in the Eastern Division right now, heading into the playoffs.
And if it's Saskatchewan against Winnipeg, I might help you out with those ticket sales.
I guess. I'll meet you in front of the stadium, and if you have a few and I have a few, we'll make some cash.
Well,
those guys will make the trip.
Yep.
They probably have their tickets. I'm sure they have their tickets.
They're there.
Yeah.
And they might be our early gladiator candidates for the night.
Well, you know, in fact, they're probably going to be dressed like that from now until then.
They got the Mad Hatters here too. Everywhere we go, when Saskatchewan's playing, they're wearing green in the stands.
Well, how about the Calgary Stampeders selling a bunch of tickets? Well over 30,000 for McMahon Stadium for that semifinal game with the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Calgary Stampeders.
A lot of Hardy fans tonight on a wet night at Commonwealth Stadium. Kanji high short kick. And Bertram with it, dives ahead to the 44. 9 seconds left, and Well, does Ray have time for one play to try and get into field goal position again, or do you just take it to the locker room?
Absolutely. One play, take it, and throw it as far as you can. Try and get a sort of an intermediate 45, 30 to 40-yard throw. Take a chance. Maybe Saskatchewan gets a penalty, and you get another play. Maybe you can catch it and get down, get that field goal team out there.
At the 44. There's Jason Tucker, always a good bet. And they'll get a chance to line it up. Marked at the 41, 3 seconds on the clock.
How about Jason Tucker, though? How aware of the play and the situation was Jason Tucker? Tucker, 1,259 yards coming into this game, over 1,000 again, but he knew how much time on the clock was left in this half and got down just in time to give Edmonton that extra 3 seconds to put the field goal team on the field.
26-yard gain gives Fleming a chance to match his longest field goal of the year. It's a tough shot, though, on this slippery turf tonight. Jason Johnson, the holder. Final play. First half, and Fleming nailed it. Well, they come up with 5 points in the final 17 seconds. And the Eskimos will lead 13-7 at the half.
Welcome back, 13-7 Edmonton at the half. The last time the Riders won in Edmonton at Commonwealth Stadium was almost 6 years ago. Almost 6 years ago tonight. It was October 28, 2000. It was 54-52 Riders. I don't think we're headed for one of those shootouts tonight, but the Edmonton Eskimos will certainly take it. They want this win badly in front of their home fans to end their season on a high note. And we talked about some fresh faces as they try to build towards next season, and Ron McClendon's been impressive in the last couple of weeks, hasn't he?
Quickly making a name for himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he played 9 games last year and looked good, but looked raw. I mean, last year when I watched him play, I saw a guy who had a lot of energy but just hadn't got the package fully together. And he spent the year on the practice roster this year and clearly has been watching and learning. And I'll show you an example here. I love the way, again, you'll see his shoulder staying north-south. And just how Joffrey Reynolds runs the football and his shuffle burst into the end zone. That is just a veteran way to run the football down there by the goal line. He does it again here. Watch how he picks his way through the Saskatchewan defense, keeping his shoulders square to the line of scrimmage. Before, he was sort of all arms and legs last year, Matty.
What was that?
Arms and legs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like you when you played quarterback. You know, all arms and legs. But you know what? He's really...
Jack you up.
Come on, let's see it.
Hey, Ron McClendon, he's certainly producing. He's fighting for a job, right? You know, and there's other guys fighting for jobs. But you see the Edmonton Eskimos putting the building blocks together for the 2007 football season. Paul Jones, the general manager, who is their primary scout that finds the talent for the Edmonton Eskimos, he's gone out and found some really good kids. But here's a homegrown right here, J.R. LaRose from the Edmonton Huskies, second-year player for the Edmonton Eskimos, making plays. And we see it again, over the top. Well, this might be why he's in the middle. You can't get, he's DB, he's a free safety now. Don't get me wrong, you guys, free safeties can catch. And J.R. LaRose can certainly play some football. But I tell you, Paul Jones has been taking some heat for not having the quality players, and I see plenty of quality players on the Edmonton Eskimos. We saw the guy who forced that fumble, Schultz, by the name of Anthony Floyd, a linebacker from Louisville. We see Adam Braidwood. We see LaRose. We see a young Edmonton Eskimo football team emerging in front of our eyes.
A lot of questions about the players, but also questions about the coaches, and you have two of them that are on completely different cycles in terms of their careers. Danny Barrett, if you're prosecuting him as the head coach of this football team, you're saying you have not finished first or second since you have been head coach, and you have no Grey Cup appearances, and you've had a lot of time to do it. If you're defending him, you're saying, hey, he took over and they're 5'11", and you talk about no Grey Cup opportunities. He was 2 plays away from 2 of them. So as this season progresses, as these playoffs progress, the big issue is Danny Barrett's coaching job and his security.
And that's an interesting story as we go into the offseason. By the way, you know, Friday is our big night. We still have one game left tomorrow night, but we want to say thanks to everybody who's made Friday nights a part of their weekly tradition. We hear great feedback all the time, and we appreciate you tuning all of us in on a Friday night. We still got one half to go. This was the Boston Pizza CFL poll question we asked you prior to the game. We had well over 3,000 people log on tonight to tell us who do they think will be coming out of the East in the Grey Cup. And with 48, almost half the vote, the Toronto Argonauts.
TSN's Top 50 CFL Players, presented by the all-new 2007 GMC Sierra.
Defense wins championships, and in the early 1970s, the Stampeders were a major force. John Helton rushed, tackled, and took control of the defensive line for 14 seasons in the CFL. His desire was evident. Twice in his career, he was named the CFL's most outstanding defensive player. John Helton, a 9-time CFL All-Star and 2-time Grey Cup winner. One of the players up for consideration on TSN's list of the top 50 players in league history.
The CFL Top 50 Players list will be unveiled as part of the Grey Cup festivities in Winnipeg. For more information on the program and a complete list of all the nominees, please visit tsn.ca/CFL Top 50. 13-7 for the Eskimos at the half over the Saskatchewan Roughriders. If you caught the pregame show, Brian Williams had an extensive one-on-one interview with Hugh Campbell, who is stepping down as the Eskimos CEO. During the halftime, he's got another special guest, the man who will take over in the footsteps of Hugh. We'll take you back to Commonwealth Stadium and say hello again to Brian out there in the cold weather on Friday night. How are you, Brian?
I'm fine, Dave. This is great weather. A little rain, little snow. It's Canadian Football League weather. The president of the Eskimos, Rick Lallisher, joins me on the pregame show. Rick, and thank you for joining us. Hugh Campbell told me his retirement had been in the works for a couple of years, but there are still those here that believe Hugh Campbell is the fall guy for the Eskimos missing the playoffs for the first time in more than 30 years.
Absolutely not. That's absurd. It was actually Hugh that went to the board of directors in 2004 with a succession plan. I'd come on after the Grey Cup in 2002, and we've worked very well together. And the CEO's job is to create a succession plan. And so he went to the board, and they worked through a succession plan. He actually signed a contract back in February of 2005 that said he'd be done at the end of 2006.
All right, you're running the show here in Edmonton. Is there one thing? I mean, you've got a great halftime. You got the military here. You've got the biggest tailgate party I've ever seen in the rain and the snow. Is there one thing you've learned from Hugh Campbell?
There's a lot of things you learn from Hugh Campbell.
But one thing, I mean,
this
is the model franchise.
Yeah, to focus and simplify things, and just go after those things that you can reach. Don't try to be all things to all people.
You are now the face of this franchise. I asked Hugh Campbell if he wanted to be commissioner. He smiled and said no, and he said he didn't have any enemies he could recommend for the job. Being commissioner is a bit like herding cats. You're the face of the Eskimos. You're involved now. What do you look for in the next commissioner?
Well, a lot of the things Tom Wright has. You have to be a lot of things to all people, but I think really a consensus builder, especially in the Board of Governors meetings, and that's going to be somebody that can listen to everybody and try to pull everybody in the same direction and then get a consensus.
It is a bit like herding cats. You said a lot of the things Tom Wright has, it's no secret. You and Hugh Campbell supported Tom Wright. Am I right on that?
Absolutely.
And 3 teams vetoed it. Would you like to see a simple majority required to approve or get rid of somebody?
Yeah, I think on a lot of things in the CFL Constitution, I'd like to see a simple majority. And there's a lot of work that has to be done in the CFL Constitution, and hopefully we can get in that in the next year or so.
Any other changes coming? You've said Danny Machocha's job is secure. What about assistant coaches as you move forward to next year?
Well, Danny and I had an agreement the last few weeks after we got beat out of the playoffs that him and his coaching staff are going to focus on the games left, and that's very important. So we're done tonight, unfortunately, so we'll start tomorrow in our discussions, and there's a lot of evaluations to do, and then we'll start our plans. But we're going to move along very quickly, and we have a lot of work to do, but we're really looking forward to it.
So nothing's guaranteed?
No, absolutely nothing's guaranteed. We've said Danny Machocha will be the coach. We've said that for months and months. Nobody believes us, but we've said it for months, and
all right,
he will be the coach.
Rest of the staff's not guaranteed. You've got a tough act to follow. Rick, good luck. Thank you for joining us here tonight.
Thanks very much.
And the military that was here, what was this?
Well, we have Edmonton Garrison here. That's a very large Army base here, and we do once a year a tribute to Edmonton Garrison and the Army, and they're great citizens in Edmonton, so we work very well with them.
All right, thank you. Rick Lallisher, the president, new head man here in Edmonton, as we go back to the studio, and Dave Randorf.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Rick. Here are the halftime numbers brought to you by Coors Light, the Silver Bullet.
Dave, we are taking a look at Marcus Crandall. We hadn't seen him for a long time this football season. You see this stat right here, 125 yards. What you don't see is he is 10 of 13, 77% completion, guys. Marcus is well on his way to shaking off that rust.
And he's rushed for their lone touchdown. They're down 13-7, third quarter coming right up.
TSN proud to present this game in high definition, courtesy of Sony, and available in 5.1 digital Dolby surround sound. Back in Edmonton, 5 points, final 17 seconds. And the Eskimos have a 13-7 lead as we get set for the third quarter. Kanji kicking it off. And Tony Tompkins breaks the tackle and across midfield. So a good return for Tompkins. And Ricky Ray will return to lead the offense here in the third quarter.
Well, Ricky Ray trying to get to that 5,000-yard mark, so he will stay in the game. There's what the quarterbacks did in the first half. Marcus Crandall with a couple of real nice throws in that second quarter. Ricky Ray moved the ball a little bit in the middle of the field and had problems when he got inside Saskatchewan's territory.
And Ray needed 187 coming in, 5,000 on the year. Ronald McClendon has a couple of yards.
But you wonder how long Ricky Ray will stay in this game, because Danny Machocha would like to take a look at Jason Johnson and maybe even throw in Steven Giles again like he did last week. So likely when Ricky Ray hits that 5,000-yard mark and he's closing in on it, then he'll hand the ball over to one of the backup quarterbacks.
Within 32 yards, which might be one toss to Jason Tucker or Ed Hervey. Let's see. Goes back to throw, and there's Hervey with the catch. Anton McKenzie brings him down. It's a first down inside the Saskatchewan 40-yard line.
Ed Hervey, the wide receiver, to the wide side of the field here, is going to run the curl. He's on the outside. He's got Jason Tucker in there. Tucker's going to push the secondary back deep. He's the decoy man as he runs the wheel, and you see Hervey just run that little curl right there.
Gain of 13 for Hervey. So Ray 19 yards away. First down Eskimos. Play action, pressure, and that ball picked off. There are penalty markers down. TJ Stancil with it, but the intended receiver was Ronald McClendon. He was tackled before the ball arrived, and I believe that's why the two markers were there, although Danny Barrett saying the pass was tipped, and so McClendon was fair game.
Yeah, and that's what the argument will be, whether or not that ball was touched. It was Marcus Adams who tackles Ron McClendon before the ball arrives. That was the penalty flag. I think it was Dwan Epps who
pass interference. Saskatchewan number 51. 10-yard penalty from the point of last scrimmage. Automatic first down.
Marcus Adams being called.
Yeah, and the guy who tackled, first of all, here, right on the outside, that's Epps. There's Marcus Adams. Epps is on the outside and gets the pressure. 51, Marcus Adams going to realize it's screen to Ron McClendon. There's the tackle with the ball in the air. That ball was picked off, but the interference happened first.
And it did not look like the ball was tipped.
And that's not reviewable.
Eskimo first down. At the 29, Ray to the air. Ray looking deep. Ray's got Pat Woodcock. And making the adjustment for the ball, lost it and it falls incomplete.
Well, Ricky Ray threw the football where it had to be thrown on the outside shoulder of Pat Woodcock. Fortunately for Woodcock and Edmonton fans, he was looking over the inside shoulder, looking to his left, running straight down the field, and he had to flip his hips and flip his eyes around and get back and focus on that ball. This is very difficult to do with receivers. Receivers make it look easy all the time, but when you have to take your eyes off the ball in the air, turn your head around, and then find the ball again, it's very difficult to do, and Woodcock couldn't bring it in.
2nd and 10.
Tucker time.
Looking in the corner, Jason Tucker, touchdown. Vintage stuff, Ray to Tucker, and Ricky Ray's over 5,000 yards.
And why not get there on a touchdown throw to Jason Tucker on a route that he owns? I'm just going to give Jason Tucker complete ownership of the corner route. He runs it to perfection. Teams know he's going to run it, and he is open and catches that football in traffic in the end zone one more time on that corner route.
12th touchdown of the year for Jason Tucker. Ricky Ray, 2nd straight 5,000-yard season. Fleming adds the extra point, and the Eskimos lead expands to 20-7. Jason Tucker has his 51st career touchdown catch that ties Waddell Smith,
Hey, got one.
the third on the all-time Eskimo list.
Much love.
And our friend Danny Kepley tells me Waddell Smith may be the most underrated of the great Eskimo weapons over the years.
Jason Tucker, you've got to love watch play the game. I mean, not only because of his great athletic ability and how good he is as a receiver, but it's this workman-like approach to football. You never hear the quotes from him in the paper. You never hear him calling out opponents or teammates or anything else. He just goes to work every day, plays great football game in and game out. 2 years ago, 1,600 yards. Last year, 1,411 yards. Both those years, 11 touchdowns. This is his 12th. And watch how he uses the field. He's going to take an inside move there, and TJ Stansel is frozen now, and now he's got the outside. TJ Stansel had to keep that outside position. He's got the outside shoulder, and that's when he takes off to that corner in a complete speed cut. He's out there. He's got that position, the body position. Ricky Ray drops the ball right in the spot he has to. One more touchdown and one more call. Ricky Ray to Jason Tucker.
Just wonder if somebody picked it up or not.
Exactly 5,000 yards for Ray. And now the Roughriders try to respond. Crandall rolling and running. He'll have a first down as he slides at the 50.
On this play, Marcus Crandall gets outside, and the Edmonton Eskimos are all in man-to-man coverage with their back to the quarterback because they're chasing receivers. He gets a little play action fake in here, and then is going to come outside. And when he comes outside, he sees a whole bunch of backs. Look at all the backs of the Edmonton Eskimos. Donald Brady had his back to him. So did Shannon Garrett. So he says, well, I might as well just take off and run.
Roughriders trying to beat Edmonton for the first time. They've beaten every other team in the league this season. Crandall's short drop, and that pass skips incomplete, intended for former Ticat Craig East.
Yeah, I thought that Crandall there got a little bit greedy. He had running back over the middle and was wide open for easy pickup. I think it was Shamar Bracey, but tried to go a little bit longer and one hopped it.
Second and 10. 5 receivers set. And looking for Jason French. Been a tough year for French. Incomplete that pass. A guy who was much more important in the offense a year ago. Let's join Ryan Rashog.
Yeah, Chris, Stephen Giles warming up on the sidelines. Danny Machocha told me he will be going in. He's also going to try and get Jason Johnson some playing time, and if Johnson can get some playing time, it will be huge for him, because the Eskimos have apparently offered a contract to a guy in their negotiation list, Stefan LaForce out of Louisville, and if LaForce does decide to sign with the team and comes to camp next year, he could very well push Johnson for that third spot.
From the you could never have too many good quarterbacks file, and LaForce certainly had tremendous college credentials at Louisville that made him sound like a CFL star of the future. Tony Tompkins with his big return through the arms of Kanji, still going, but unfortunately there are two penalty markers way back where Tony Tompkins started.
Yeah, you know, and that's what we talked about earlier, and that's what I hope can be eliminated, or at least an attempt to eliminate next season, and get back so that the fans got on their feet here at Commonwealth. Another big exciting play from the returners coming back, because it is just too difficult. And listen, years ago I was on all those return teams, all those cover teams, and played on all the special teams. And blocks that used to you get away with, you now cannot get away with.
10-yard penalty.
And there's the question. You think that one last year would have been okay?
I think it would have been. And I think when you get on the side and you get close, there was those big decleaters from the side the guys didn't see that really didn't injure any players anyway. And when they changed the rule, they have made returners who are trying to block, the return teams trying to block, they've made those players tentative. And when you're tentative in blocking on returns, the cover guys get down there quicker. And to me, I know coaches have said it's been the extra 2 men on the roster, but to me, that has been a big difference in the return game. And we need to go back and see these great returners make those big plays.
That wipes out a 66-yard punt return. Jocelyn Fournette shaken up on the play. We'll take a timeout here in Edmonton. Well, the long snapper, Jocelyn Fournette's been battling a strained calf all season long. He limps off and back at the Edmonton 10-yard line. Here's Stephen Giles, who drove the Eskimos for a touchdown on his initial series in the CFL. Ron McClendon, high hurdling up to the 20-yard line on the first down.
They love his strong arm, his athletic ability. Stephen Giles' ability to get out and run with the football, throw on the run. He's got all that potential, but once again, you just don't know until you see him play. And you see him play in live game action. That's why this game is important to Stephen Giles and a lot of players individually here tonight.
Danny Machocha just gave him part of the second quarter last week. The first down run for McClendon,
but you know,
a couple that time.
In a game, or in a team, I should say, with a quarterback like Ricky Ray, I mean, these backup quarterbacks don't get much time. Jason Johnson, Stephen Giles during the regular season, because Ricky Ray is the guy who's going to go start to finish. And you know, if the BC Lions don't lose Dave Dickinson for a while, we don't know anything about Buck Pierce, and Buck Pierce has become one of the stars. So maybe Stephen Giles is one of these guys that becomes a star, but you don't know until he gets out there and plays.
2nd and 8. Giles to throw. Across the middle, a little high for Ed Hervey, incomplete.
And a little hot. And that's the arm strength. And that's a young quarterback. And Ed Hervey say, you see that fastball? Woo! I need a catcher's mitt for that, baby.
Buddy, I'm good, but I'm not that good.
Yeah, and that's just a touch pass that, with more playing time, Stephen Giles realizes that all he has to do is drop it into the stomach of Ed Hervey and let him do the rest and take a little bit of heat off that one.
So Fleming has to punt it away.
We slowed it down for that. Was slow motion.
Going out of bounds at the Saskatchewan bench near midfield. NASCAR fans, the chase for the Nextel Cup continues on TSN this Sunday with the Bass Pro Shops MBNA 500 from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Coverage begins at 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 Pacific, and available in TSN High Definition.
Punter's got a new look up there. Like, that's Punter the mascot. And there's a Halloween costume thing going on there for Punter, yeah.
You always notice that stuff. First down, Saskatchewan. starting on the Edmonton side of half, and Bracey wrapped and brought down after a gain of 4 to 5.
I noticed that because Punter's one of my favorites.
Well, because he looks a little meaner than some of the rest.
And I've seen him take on all the other mascots in the league when they come by here. And Punter is one of the guys that he's got a mean look about him. He's got the eye black on underneath there. And he's one of my favorites.
You be careful because Gainer might be watching.
Well,
Gainer's not going to like this.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I don't want to get Gainer mad.
2nd and 6. Graham, a lot of time. Fantus. It's the vacuum hands they talk about. And they're ruling him down, although he alertly got up just in case. But again, a shoot top catch by Fantus.
You know, I give Danny Barrett a lot of credit for Andy Fantus' contributions over the last few games, because rather than throw Andy Fantus into the game, into the lineup, starting lineup early, which a lot of people wanted because he was a high draft pick and a lot of hype coming into training camp, had a great training camp. Danny Barrett was patient with him. I think it's paid off.
Boy, he's a keeper. 6th catch of the game. Randall. And a catch for Yo Murphy with Shannon Garrett.
You know, and when you look at Matt Dominguez, you get a Jason Armstead back. Those are speed guys that can stretch the defense. Andy Fantus fits in there perfectly. And if he's playing with confidence through the playoffs, which I'm sure he will because of his last 3-4 games, what a plus for Saskatchewan. And you have to give a lot of credit to Danny Barrett for managing that properly and allowing him to build some confidence on the practice roster, practice with the team, learn the offense, and arrive in the starting lineup when he was ready.
Touchdowns the last 2 weeks, and he has his best game as a rookie. That ball tipped in out of the reach of the intended receiver, Corey Grant.
You know, that was touched at the line of scrimmage, or else Marcus Crandall has a completion for a first down, and Fantus recognized the play and presented a target for Marcus Crandall. Fantus is right here and right in the front of your screen. He flashes there. That's hot routes because the blitz was coming from Edmonton, and Grant and Fantus were open in the hot routes, but that's the recognition level of Andy Fantus as he goes into these playoffs. What an addition.
Well, we mentioned Kanji's punting this year, but we have to give him full marks for a tremendous season. Place kicking, and he tries from 40 here. And this is the kind of year it's been for Luka Kanji. His 36th in 41 tries. Reason to dance here for the Riders. A reminder to vote for the Rogers Player of the Game in the 4th quarter. Text message your vote using your Rogers phone and send to Go CFL. Rogers brings you the latest MP3 phones.
How about Andy Fantus?
Yeah.
What's up, everybody back home? Hi, Mom. Hi, honey.
A couple receivers having games tonight. Ed Hervey, the veterans, made some nice catches. He's having some fun in his last game on that sideline for 2006. And Jason Tucker has a touchdown. Good consideration.
Ricky Ray, do you give him the nod because he goes over 5,000? 20-10. Edmonton with the lead. Short kick. Let's see. Jump ball. And it is brought down by Robert LeBlanc. And the Eskimos get the ball on an alert play by LeBlanc.
Well, I'm not sure if Lance Frazier didn't know that it was an onside kick, because he had a great opportunity to get there and get a chance at it, and he ran right by it. Now, this is clearly a called play by Danny Barrett, because Luka Kanji turns hard, and it's the onside kick. Watch 15 over on the left side. He just ran right by the football. Had he stopped and jumped up, he caught that in the air. He was gone. I mean, he just runs by, and now the official loses his footing on turf there in Commonwealth, and then gets run over.
Yeah, that's the problem.
He
player ran over Steve Deliniak, so he is shaking up the line judge, but
he'll be back. He regrouped, but that's, this is one guy they want to look at. This is a guy that comes, Lance Frazier, has NFL experience, played 12 games with the Dallas Cowboys, had a couple interceptions. He's got some experience. He's a cover guy. One of the first players that Eric Tillman has signed as the new general manager in Saskatchewan.
This is a reach, but you don't think he's learning all the new rules, and he thought maybe there's no yards on kickoffs too, because he really ran by the football there when it looked like the Roughriders had a shot at it.
Well, hey, I mean, listen, he's only had a month to practice, and he's trying to learn the rules. He's trying to learn the game. He's trying to cover these great receivers and Jason Tucker and guys like that. It's a lot to ask.
Giles remains the quarterback, McClendon the running back, and he runs into Anton McKenzie and company. Get back to the line of scrimmage and maybe one.
You know, and this is a good time for Danny Barrett to not only practice some of these specialty plays, but also plant in the mind of the Calgary Stampeders. And Tom Higgins is spotting from the Edmonton booth up here. I walked by him earlier in the game, and he is watching this game, and he's watching Danny Barrett. He sees the onside kick. I wouldn't be surprised to see Danny Barrett try a couple of fakes. Put some plays in there that he's going to force the Calgary Stampeders heading into the playoffs to practice against when they go to that playoff game.
They're telling us yesterday we're playing well at the right time. Second down passing situation. Giles gets it out there. Richard Alston the catch.
Well, that was a flick of the wrist from Stephen Giles. He didn't even turn his body. His mechanics in throwing the football, basically to get it to that wide field, it's about 45 yards from that hash mark to the sideline out there, and he barely even turns around and looks that way. Kind of flicks his wrist across his body, and there he is. But you know, one guy that's scouting this game and scouting Saskatchewan is that man right there, the head coach of the Calgary Stampeders, Tom Higgins.
Western semifinal next week at McMahon. A big crowd anticipated. Fleming to Dorsey. And Dominic Dorsey nowhere to go. 4:07 remaining, third quarter at Commonwealth. Marcus Crandall remains at the helm for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, trailing by 10, starting at their own 15-yard line. And there's Jason French. A catch at the 22 for 7. Mentioned earlier, French struggling this year, 28 catches.
Well, Jason French has got footsteps now. I mean, Jason French and Corey Grant, Canadian receivers, in the Rider lineup going to training camp, and all of a sudden Andy Fantouche shows up in the scene, and everyone's raving about his ability to catch the football, and that he is going to be a guy that figures prominently in the offense and has over the last few weeks, and that puts a lot more pressure on Jason French and Corey Grant.
French with 52 catches last year. And Gracie with nothing there.
Good penetration there from Adam Braidwood. And, you know, we've talked about Adam Braidwood. He really emerged first-round pick in 2006, first overall. Actually, see, between Andy Fantouche and Adam Braidwood, you got the top picks in the draft. And Braidwood, I'll tell you about a guy who reminds me of a young Brent Johnson.
Yep.
And I say that because of the motor. He's working on his pass rush techniques, but he comes hard every single play. There is no rest in Adam Braidwood, and that's one of the great characteristics of Brent Johnson.
Short kick. Tompkins at the Rough Rider 47 drop there. Well, the end of an era this week in Edmonton with the retirement announcement of Hugh Campbell. Danny Machocha running the football show here, and he reminisced this week about the first time he made contact with the legendary Hugh Campbell.
But I remember Hugh Campbell calling me in Montreal and telling me that there was this job opening in Edmonton, because him and Tom Higgins had called me up, and I couldn't believe that I was talking to Hugh Campbell. I'm talking, you know, when you think about Hugh Campbell, you think about the coach that won 5 in a row, legend. And I remember being so intimidated talking to him over the phone. And I remember them flying me in and sitting down with them, and him coming and see me the next day at the hotel, taking me out for breakfast, and just talking to him. And he seemed like a normal guy. And I was just wondering to myself, I bet you after I sign on, you'll see someone totally different, and he hasn't changed a lick. What you see is what you get.
And even though Hugh Campbell is moving on, he is just a phone call away, and Danny Machoch is going to continue to make those calls for advice.
Oh, absolutely, and well, I tell you, congratulations to Hugh Campbell on a job well done with respect to what he has done for the Canadian Football League. And here's a little board on Hugh Campbell. And 17 Grey Cup appearances as a player, a coach, and in the executive offices, 29 home playoff games. Look at that winning percentage as a coach. And those 5 consecutive Grey Cups is probably what he's most proud of. And he was, of course, coaching the football team.
Well, a great receiver with Ronnie Lancaster in Saskatchewan. He's doing a little research earlier this year. I never realized that Hugh Campbell, Ricky Williams led the NCAA in rushing 2 years in a row. Hugh Campbell led the NCAA in receiving 2 years in a row. This guy was almost as good a player as he was as a coach and a manager. He is a football legend in all capacities.
And you know what? The more you look at it, the more people you talk to, that ball incomplete by...
And a third down gamble by the Eskimos in Saskatchewan territory.
So they will turn it over. But, you know, just when you look and you talk to people about Hugh Campbell, everyone has the stories. And Danny Machoch not only talked on camera with us, but had a long conversation about Hugh Campbell and all the players that talk about him and all the stories. And it always seems to me that it comes back to Hugh Campbell always treating the coaches and the players and the organization with the top priority. They're the top priority always. And I think the part that has made Hugh Campbell the guy that he is the fact that he used to play the game, and he played the game well. And that he's carried through as a coach and then into the executive offices, and he remembers that. Players want to be wanted. And that's been the difference here in Edmonton. They always talk about the family atmosphere and putting on that Eskimo jersey and the tradition involved with playing Edmonton football or Eskimo football. Hugh Campbell established that, and he did it by putting the priority on the players and the coaches always.
Rick Lallisher talking about how he kept it simple, stayed focused, and it's a simple concept, but maybe not all organizations are that player-oriented, and that's the reason why so many of these current Eskimos, former Eskimos, live in Edmonton all year round, stay in Edmonton when their careers are over. Corey Grant with that catch and got into the grill of A.J. Gass after thinking he got a late hit from the hard-nosed Eskimo middle linebacker. There's Dorsey with a first down run. That should be the end of the third quarter here at Commonwealth Stadium. There's an injured Eskimo on the field after the Dorsey run, and it's Singor Mobley nicked up a bit. And it looks like we're going to get one more play, or are we? And it is the final play of the third quarter. So we're through 45 minutes at Commonwealth, and we'll return. Eskimos lead by 10. Wet snow falling on our final Friday night telecast, and after 3 quarters, the third quarter stats are brought to you by Rona, proud league-wide sponsor of the CFL.
That's pretty even in this football game here in the snow. Late October, Saskatchewan Roughriders playing so many backup players to take a look at and resting all their veterans for the playoffs, but they're hanging in there in a game that the Edmonton Eskimos would really like to win in front of their home fans.
It's the final chance for the Eskimos to actually put a win streak together this season. Hard to believe this team was not able to put wins together all season long.
Yeah, and you look at some of these older players, and we talked about them early on in the show, but Singor Mobley, Ed Hervey, Shannon Garrett, I mean, Malcolm Frank, who's already said that he is going to retire. A.J. Gass is 30 years old. You know, these are guys that want to, if it is their last game as an Edmonton Eskimo, finish on a high note.
And a lot of first games for Saskatchewan Roughriders, and they're still very much in this game. Down by 10, but with the football. On a first down at midfield. Crandall at the controls. Going up top, Kareem Kelly, and this is picked off. Jonte Buell, who's moved out to the corner, has his first interception of the year and just the 10th all season long for the Edmonton Eskimos.
Yeah, and Jonte Buell forced a fumble early on in this game. He's got an interception. Here's one of the young guys that they're pretty high on. J.R. LaRose, another one. And this is a nice speed turn by Jonte Buell. In other words, he's going to the inside of the field, and he blind turns back to the outside and finds the football, gathers himself underneath it, and wins the race. That race with Kareem Kelly, who's trying to run that corner route. But nice speed turn right there. You see he had to take his eyes off the ball, then find it again.
Right here.
And so now Jason Johnson comes in. He gets the fourth quarter. The backup for most of the year, getting third string reps in this game. And Jason Johnson, the guy on the bubble, even though he was the backup all season long, really didn't get much important playing time. But with Ryan Rashog reporting earlier on Stefan LaFleur's, you wonder what Johnson's future is.
And that's why this is valuable playing time for Johnson. He can get a drive together. That sets him up with some momentum going into training camp, and he'll have to try and win the job when he gets back to camp next year.
2nd and 10, Edmonton 25-yard line. Ed Hervey with the catch. There's a penalty marker in the Eskimo backfield.
But you know, you talk about Hugh Campbell and you talk about the quarterbacks that have come through the Edmonton Eskimo organization, and Hugh Campbell really has been a guy who's been an architect of that, because you know, if you're the backup quarterback in Edmonton, there's a pretty good chance you're going to become a star in the league at some point.
Edmonton number 67, 10-yard penalty. Repeat, 2nd down.
Dan Comiskey, the former Rough Rider.
I mean, let's go down the list. So you go back to the Wilkie days with Warren Moon and Matt Dunnigan showing up, and then it was Dunnigan and Damon Allen, and then it was, you know, and Warren Moon. That's another thing that I think maybe isn't talked about enough. That the opportunity that Hugh Campbell gave to Warren Moon really changed how people looked at that position, and gave Warren Moon an opportunity to play the quarterback position when he wasn't getting that opportunity in the NFL. And then, you know, and now how much it has changed. Warren Moon did not get a chance to play quarterback in the NFL early on because of the color of his skin. He did here in Canada. Hugh Campbell should be very proud of changing that perception.
And that's why when Hugh Campbell, it was leaked out this week, he was going to announce his retirement, Warren Moon came back here to acknowledge the man who gave him that opportunity. And in the same year that he goes into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton. Fleming with the kick, and this will be Craig East. No yards will be the call. Jonte Buell was the tackler, but within the 5-yard restraining. Some of the best hits of the year on Friday Night Football. What was the best? You think Jackie Mitchell on Dave Dickinson, or that Kobe Reinhart on Mike Bauer?
There's some beauty, a little Friday night fun there.
Some teeth were loosened this year. And that little dump off to Chris Sarka. There's another one, J.R. LaRose.
Yeah, you know, they got to rethink this play. Saskatchewan might want to go back to the drawing board on this one, because this looked like a little bit of that kind of sandlot confusion. Watch this play. I know they didn't draw it up this way. You got it. No, I got it. You got it. I got it. I'll just kind of sidearm it over here. Not exactly the execution I'm sure Saskatchewan was looking for that one. But in a game like this, you can experiment with a couple of new plays.
Going back in the book for a little more work. 2nd and almost 10. A pump and going up top. East calls for it. Can't reach it. Step for step. Shannon Garrett, the former Rough Rider, in his 11th year.
Well, Craig East tried to slow down and draw a penalty rather than try and accelerate and get underneath that football. Pretty good throw, I thought, from Marcus Crandall. He had great time enough to pump it and then go deep over the top. And Craig East slows down to try and draw the penalty, and the officials aren't buying. Good coverage by Shannon Garrett.
So Kanji back in, looking for his 37th of the year.
Two-time nominee for Saskatchewan.
Terrific year out of Simon Fraser. And he brings that one in nicely. A little more confidence after that big kick a couple of weeks ago to beat BC. Well, it looks like the BC Lions will win the sack race this year, and for every sack in tonight's game, Purolator donates the quarterback's weight in food to a local food bank. Purolator, where business is going. What a great program. Over 1 million pounds of food have been donated, but no donations tonight.
Well, the Riders have to get her going here. Fred Perry wants to get going individually against Brent Johnson, but they need a bunch in a hurry.
I think Fred might be cooling till the postseason now. Ricky Ray will check that Jason Johnson. And Johnson with the run of 10 yards and a first down.
And this is what Johnson has to continue to keep showing, that not only can he complete the ball down the field throwing it, but he has to show that he can run with the football, because that's a huge element at the quarterback position in the Canadian Football League, more so than the NFL. You've got to be able to run the ball from that quarterback position a little bit. Ricky Ray has run it more this year than he ever has. He's even putting that into his game.
7-point lead for Edmonton. Johnson hands off to McClendon, who has dropped close to the line of scrimmage. Back-to-back tackles for Marcus Adams.
You know, you talk about throwing the football, and that's one thing. It's again, this is another thing on the wish list of topics to discuss in the off season. The football and the configuration of it was changed this year, in that they stitched in those white stripes, and you can see the stitching there in the white stripes. And quarterbacks have been pretty political about it this year and haven't really complained about it much. We've heard a little bit of rumblings, but I think it's affected the passing game. And I hope that in the offseason they look at that again and maybe study it a little more and go back to the old football.
Passing situation here. Dwan Epps knocks the ball down. Incomplete.
You know, touchdown passes are down. I know defenses are turning it up and defensive linemen are becoming better, but touchdown passes are down, passing yardage is down, and quarterbacks, they don't want to be the one that complains about it. They don't want to try and make an excuse about the football, but they implemented it this year. I think it affects the dynamic of the football. Like, you think of baseball. If a baseball gets scuffed, they change it. Right, because it can affect the flow, and it can affect what the ball does if there's a little scuff on it. And I think it's the same in football.
Well, you're right. The quarterbacks privately have admitted they're not happy with the ball this year.
There's one for the wish list.
Yep.
There's topics to discuss. Yeah.
And these will all be discussed in the off season. Fleming, like he almost slipped when making contact with the ball, and it goes out at the Roughrider 33-yard line. Well, it's good to see Rocky Butler available for duty once again after suffering a concussion in what was a surprise start a few weeks back against Montreal. He got the call instead of Kerry Joseph and was injured in the first half of that game, but a guy who supplied back-to-back wins over Hamilton when Joseph was down earlier in the season.
Yeah, and in those wins, he was looking pretty good. Rocky Butler had 5 touchdown throws and 0 interceptions, was controlling the ball, moving the offense, suffered that concussion, and that was a setback for him, but he's back.
Twin tight ends, and the fake to Dorsey, the throw to Fantouz, broken up by Donald Brady.
I thought Donald Brady got there a little early. The flag came down, and he's given his best puzzled, what are you talking about look, but you be the judge. He's one-on-one coverage on Fantouz, contact, then the ball arrives. Split second early, and the flag came out immediately. Good call by the official.
Pass interference, Edmonton number 26. That is a 10-yard penalty from the point of last scrimmage and an automatic first down.
It was close, but I think they got it right. So Marcus Crandall with some valuable reps in this game tonight, and you can't emphasize it enough because they may need Marcus Crandall, Saskatchewan, in the playoff run, and that's no disrespect to Kerry Joseph. If it's up to Danny Barrett in Saskatchewan, Kerry Joseph will start and finish every game in the playoffs.
Former Stampeder, good insurance as they go into the Western Semi against Calgary. First down, and Butler airs it out looking for Corey Grant. Incomplete, working against J.R. LaRose. It's hard to get a gauge on kind of shape the Roughriders are in heading to Calgary for the Western semifinal based on this, except we do know that 16 starters are at home and they're going to feel a whole lot better going into Calgary with an extra week of rest.
Well, you've got to like, if you're a Saskatchewan fan, your team's chances as they go in. I mean, and that's Calgary Stampeders earned the home playoff game, so they would be favored because of it. But Saskatchewan looked good down the stretch.
Here comes the pressure. Butler steps up. He'll run for the first down. Hits midfield.
You think about those starters. I mean, Matt Dominguez on a roll. You had Kenton Keith that was finally healthy and playing tremendous football. He's back in Saskatchewan. He's going to be ready to go, and that's been the strength of the Roughriders. Their offensive line, Gene Mikowski's playing his best football the second half of the season, and the offensive line as a group playing their best football. And we're not even getting to the defense yet with a veteran secondary and front four. So Saskatchewan, a little bit overlooked from the people in Calgary, I believe.
And it's not like third-place teams haven't run the table in recent years. Like last year in the Eskimos, Marcus Crandall can tell his Rider teammates all about it. And here's Butler looking for Kelly, knocked down. Shannon Garrett. And the former Rider, I think, making a statement that he'd like season number 12 of the CFL back in Edmonton next year.
Well, there's a few that will try and get back in the lineup, and some tough decisions for Danny Machochi and Shannon Garrett. Certainly one of the elder statesmen back there, because Garrett at 34 years old is one of the guys that Danny Machochi will have to evaluate and figure out in this offseason. Did he play well enough to earn another invite back for one more year? He's certainly playing well enough tonight.
2nd and 10 from midfield. Rocky Butler at the controls. Here comes pressure, but Butler gets it away. And this one falls incomplete with plenty of Eskimo defenders around the ball. So midway through this fourth quarter, Roughriders remain a touchdown down, and we'll have to kick it away.
Tough decisions for Danny Machochi as he looks. He looks at his, and you know what? The evaluation we're talking about is not just with for Danny Machochi players. It's also with coaches.
Kanji, good kick. Tompkins sees it bounce out at about the 2-yard line. What a great kick by Kanji. We saw Fleming in the first half, and this is a 53-yarder into the corner for Luka Kanji, which will improve his punt stats.
Same spot.
Let's join Ryan Rashog.
Well, with the departure of Hugh Campbell this week, there's been some questions about the future of his son, Rick Campbell, the Eskimos' defensive coordinator. There have been doubters throughout the years about Rick in that position, but I talked to Donnie Brady before today's game, and he said without question that entire Eskimo defensive corps supports Rick Campbell. Danny Machochi has also been very supportive of Rick Campbell as well, and Brady said a lot of the doubting is coming from outside the dressing room, not the guys that really know.
Well, he was the same guy that led them when they won the Cup last year. Here's McClendon over the 5, giving them a little breathing room.
Yeah, in fairness, you have to say that. I mean, a lot of the criticism on Rick Campbell fell when Milt Stegall went 100 yards in one play. And if one defensive back on that team makes a tackle, he probably doesn't feel that criticism, and it may be a different outcome on the season for Edmonton. He did run the defense that won the Grey Cup last year. But clearly there will be changes in the coaching staff. Not necessarily guys being fired, but maybe some additions for the Edmonton Eskimos in that coaching staff.
Danny Machocha said he will add an offensive coordinator. 2nd and 7 for Johnson from his end zone, and that pass high to Ed Hervey. And a 2-and-out, and the Roughriders, down by 7, are in good territorial shape here. And the Eskimos may have to give up 2.
Well, Ed Hervey is upset because he had an opening. The Saskatchewan Roughriders here are going with blitz, and they're coming like this, so that area in behind opens up. And guess where Ed Hervey is coming? He's coming from the left of your screen. He's going to come right into that open area. He catches this ball underneath and beats one man, and he's got tons of room to run, but the ball is thrown high. And Hervey's showing a little frustration after the fact. Goes, oh, I was right there. He just give me that one. Make one man miss, and I'm gone.
You know, you're right, but Lance Fraser looked like he was in pretty good position there.
Yeah, he was. He was right on his heel. He had to make that tackle in the open field.
Less than 6 minutes remaining, and the Eskimos are going to waste some time here. Here's number 1 of the wish list right here.
Oh, baby. Wish list number 1 right here for points for the Rules Committee. And there's a Rules Committee put together.
Procedure.
And
Edmonton number 30.
Points of discussion.
To the goal line, it remains 3rd down.
I hope one of the agendas, and at the top of the list, will be this, where teams deliberately go offside to delay the game, knowing they're going to give up a safety. And, well, I just like to see that changed somehow. And because,
well, this was the loophole that different coaches found. I think Don Matthews got some credit for it, but Wade Miller seemed to be utilized extensively.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I hate the way it looks. It's just perception-wise, you know, there's a couple. That's one of them that just, to me, it delays the game, and it just doesn't look right. All the guys are kind of laughing, goofing around all the time, and it just, I hope it changes. And speaking of that Rules Committee,
Remains 3rd down.
you know, this is something obviously that they get together every off season. They look at the rules, they look at possible changes, and I would like to see even the dynamic of that change slightly.
Well, it's the last game of the year, and how about this for a formation? Student body right.
Yeah, they're gonna give up the safety anyway.
And kill a couple of more seconds. And Fleming, fake pass, but we knew that wasn't coming on 3rd down. It is a safety, and now we're down. Well, they probably killed about 45 seconds there here in the 4th quarter, and there is a flag down. Not sure what that's all about.
Right now, right now in the league, there's only one player involved in the Rules Committee, and I believe this year it was Michael O'Shea. I'd like to see more players. And right now, it's dominated by coaches. It's coaches that...
We have a procedure. Edmonton, no end. That penalty is declined. Safety touch.
Formation was illegal.
So it is a 2-point safety that makes it a 5-point Edmonton lead. 5:23 to go here at Commonwealth. Roughriders opt to take the ball at the 35-yard line. Now trailing by 5. Rocky Butler, the quarterback, rolled one way and to the backside. And Corey Hathaway, the Lethbridge product, lumbering down to the Edmonton 50-yard line.
Nice screen set up by the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Get Corey Hathaway out there by himself and get a little blocking help in front of him. Hathaway is going to come out of the backfield this direction. Now he's going to set up. Look at how the offense influences the defense by moving to its right. And then he's got a couple of guys in front of him. Charles Thomas, one of them. Joe Murphy, another. Dominic Dorsey out front.
Former Renegade who was crushed by Baron Miles earlier this year and is just coming back off the effects of that hit. 25-yard play, and Butler over the middle, and that one knocked down. Rob Brown gets his hands on it. Well, this Wednesday, the NHL on TSN has the Toronto Maple Leafs taking on the Lightning in Tampa Bay. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. Available in TSN high definition, and that may be the best headgear we've seen this year.
That took some time to put together, that one. There's lots of pumpkin hats.
Watermelons summer, and then they go to the pumpkins. There's still a few watermelons around.
Couple. Alrighty then.
Yes, back to the action. And Butler throws a strike. And a catch for Kareem Kelly to the 35.
You know, speaking of the National Hockey League, I mean, you were talking to me in the meetings about how their rules committee has changed and to maybe involve former players or current players, and I'd really like to see the CFL's rule committee do the exact same thing.
You make a great point, and of course in hockey the likes of Brendan Shanahan or Marty Brodeur and those type of guys are inputting. We all like our friends in the coaching fraternity, but I'm not sure they're quite as in tune to the entertainment as the players might be. Butler airs, looking for Jason French off his fingertips. And he was one-on-one against Malcolm Frank.
You know, and for a quarterback in Rocky Butler here, you know, you gotta feel for him, because this goes down as an incompletion for Rocky Butler, but he kind of turned and looked at Corey Grant after an absolutely perfect throw. Hey, French. And Jason French he made a nice move to get inside position, and then it goes right off the top of his head.
That's off the pumpkin.
Yeah, incompletion for Rocky Butler, and you can't throw it any better. I hit you in the helmet with it.
Been that kind of year, unfortunately, for Jason French. 2nd and 10. Butler pressure coming. Gets away. Fantus. Well, it looked like it was going to be a spectacular catch. Incomplete.
The CFL on TSN is brought to you by Coors Light, the Silver Bullet, and by the all-new 2007 GMC Sierra, GMC Professional Grade.
Eskimos lead by 5, but Luka Kanji will attempt a 43-yarder here to make it a 2-point game. Butler, the holder. This kid has been unflappable this season. He nails another. And it's now a 2-point Edmonton lead, 20-18. And Danny Barrett's got to be happy about the way his kicker is heading into the Western semifinal.
Well, you know, every year, Friday Night Football, in this last game of the season, it's an opportunity to recognize some of the guys that are behind the scenes, not in front of the camera, but make it all happen. So I'd like to do that. And one starting out with is our producer, John Hines. Mitch Kersner also produces football. John Hines is our leader, and he is the encyclopedia of football. Whenever we need a little stat, go right to John Hines, our producer. Our directors, Paul Hemming and Andy Boyukas. Paul Hemming is, of course, the directors, the guys who cut all the cameras and will make that little dissolve right there and get you pumpkins or watermelons or whatever else you need. And we've got the best in the business doing that. Of course, statistics, Dave Moyer, John Russell, a couple more.
Don't forget our ISO guy, Eddie, Chris Edwards, and
Jeff McLeod, who do a great job. And those guys are the ones who get those ISO shots, those real cool shots of the touchdowns and those isolation hits and things like that we show you. And these guys not only get it to your living room every Friday night, but they get it to your living room the right way.
Yeah, we salute you guys, and we appreciate all you do. Jason Johnson with a run for a first down to the 45-yard line.
We're, of course, TSN, proud of our involvement with the Canadian Football League, but up here, as far as Chris and I, proud of our boys down in the truck that do it every night and don't get the credit for it.
Our last Friday night.
Yeah, it's gone fast.
it has all pointed in the direction of Winnipeg. And the Grey Cup game coming up on November 19th. Under 2 minutes to go, and the Eskimos would like to chew up the clock. This is, wow. Matt Bertrand, but he may have dropped the ball. There's a pile-up, and Patrick Kabongo tells you that he thinks the Eskimos will retain possession. And they're still jostling down there. And the Roughriders aren't agreeing with Kabongo's assessment.
Well, they're still fighting for it. I'm not sure that official hasn't made a ruling yet. Now they're looking at each other. There's some...
Well, Kabongo's 6'7", 344, so I'm not going to argue with him.
No, I don't think so.
I think if he says it's Eskimo ball, it's Eskimo ball.
They must need to get like a sledgehammer to get that helmet on Patrick Kabongo. I mean, look at this. Look at that. I mean, I think they just sit it on the top of his head and they just whack it. Drop it right down on there. And then how they get it off, I don't know. That's a guy that, hey, they will lean on in the future. And he went through some growing pains. I mentioned that earlier, but that guy's going to be a good one.
Now second and a couple. Back to Jared Winkle, and it is Winkle, the University of Alberta product, who is stopped short. So the kid gets his first carries in the Canadian Football League out of the University of Alberta, and it's third down. And a reminder that on November 19th, the best in the Canadian Football League will vie for the Grey Cup, and tickets available, and that's how you can get them. And again, the Edmonton Garrison on display tonight. And what a display of artillery it was at halftime.
Yeah, that was cool.
Boy, they take it serious when they don't make the playoffs here in Edmonton.
You know, hey, you got to give full credit to this Saskatchewan football team. You know, they're looking at the playoffs. They could easily have looked past this game. This was a big one for Edmonton. They're at home. They want to win their last game. They're out of the playoffs. Saskatchewan could have looked past this game. They've got a lot of backups playing. They could have said, you know, it's snowy, it's raining, let's just get out of here and get in the playoffs. They're playing hard, and it's going to come down to the wire on our last Friday night.
Fleming punting it away. Dorsey running out of real estate. We have 69 seconds remaining. Eskimos by 2. Well, crunch time, not the starters for Saskatchewan, but a rehearsal here, down by 2, with 1:09 to go. Can they move it into scoring range and win it? That's a bad start, and Quincy Stewart has the first sack of the game, dropping Rocky Butler. Stewart's third sack of the season. Loss of 7.
Pressure coming from the Edmonton Eskimos. They're just going to send the house on first down. It's basically a run blitz. You can see 45 with a little stunt. Cuts in front of Jeremy O'Day and gets to Rocky Butler to put the Saskatchewan Roughriders in a hole and make it that much tougher to get in field goal range now.
2nd and 17. First down catch, his first 100-yard game as a Canadian Football League player, and it won't be his last.
No, and hey, he's coming off a game versus Toronto where he led the team. He only had 33 yards, but he led the team, and that's how good Andy Fantuz can be. That's big-time hands, folks. That's pro football hands from a receiver.
19, they needed 17. First down, Butler rolls. Downfield, looks for Corey Grant, and he's got it. Corey Grant coming back to the ball, and Rocky Butler's got them moving.
And they're in field goal range. A.J. Gass hates it. Rocky Butler on the roll to the outside. He's got a throwing lane. Great move by Corey Grant to throw the brakes on. And like in Top Gun, let the enemy fly on by. and you come back and pick up the football.
41 yards, Butler to Grant. Riders trying to pull it out and finish 10-8. First over 500 finish since 11-7 in 2003. At the 42-yard line, first down. Eskimos bring the house. And Grant incomplete. Check that, Jason French, the intended receiver. And Butler a little slow to get up. Well, it's time now for the Friday Night Gladiator, brought to you by Castrol. More than just oil, it's liquid engineering.
Well, our last night to name a gladiator, and I like the rookie who has made some big catches for Saskatchewan, win or lose down the stretch here in the final seconds of this game. I thought Andy Fantus, who has to be thinking about the playoffs, and he came in focused in this game. 7 catches, his first 100-yard game in the Canadian Football League. So congratulations to Andy Fantus. We salute you tonight. You're a gladiator.
7 catches is a season high, career high. 110 yards, career high. And Rocky Butler was shaken up on that last incompletion and in some pain after a big wallop from A.J. Gass.
A.J. Gass came right through, and as Butler tried to turn away, he caught it in the right shoulder. Full blitz from the Edmonton Eskimos, including Shannon Garrett out of the secondary. Butler's taking a while, and Marcus Crandall warms up again.
So Crandall has to get ready now with 20 seconds on the clock, and looks like they're going to need to move the football a little closer for Luka Kanji. And this fella may make Sports Center. We'll find out soon, because it's coming up next with Dutch and Jen. All the highlights of the night. And Rocky Butler still down.
Yeah, you got to think Danny Barrett is thinking one more first down, and he's got Luka Kanji in range for the game-winning field goal attempt. But in wet conditions like this, in the snow, the plant foot is difficult for the kickers, and they have to get him as close as they can, obviously.
This game still in the balance, but I think these statistics are really interesting, are these standings. West versus West this year. If Saskatchewan wins on a late field goal, then the West was a saw-off all season long. Wally Buono mentioned that to me a few weeks ago. He said that would be unprecedented. Now, if the Eskimos hold on and win and go 6-4, here's the best team in the West, and they're the team that misses the playoffs.
Yeah.
Figure that out. Well, we can explain it because they went 1-7 against the East, and it took their last game against the East to post a victory against Montreal.
And 2 losses to a struggling Hamilton Tiger Cat football team by the Edmonton Eskimos. I mean, Jason Moss and that Hamilton offense had 2 good games all year long, both against his old team, the Edmonton Eskimos, as they won back-to-back games against Danny Machocha and this team, and that really sunk that ship.
Well, the other thing about these Eskimos, this has not been the usual scary place to play. 4-4 at home, with this game still on the line. So Marcus Crandall comes back, and Rocky Butler very slowly makes his way to the sidelines.
Boy, you almost think screen draw. You've got a cold Marcus Crandall. Are you going to ask him to force it down the field?
Second and 10 for the Edmonton 42. Short pass, and Yo Murphy can't reel it in. And so Kanji, well, it's a great rehearsal for the kid.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll have to kick a 49-yarder to win in Calgary, or maybe a little later in this season. Let's find out how he does. He's been flawless tonight at all 3 from over 40.
Yeah, and over 40 in conditions like this it's like that wind chill factor. You know, when it's cold and then you add the wind chill factor, well, when it's wet and snowy and rainy, the kicking factor, 40 is like 50. You have to add 10 yards.
He's hit from 53 this year. A couple of young guys Nice handling the ball now. Fantuz the holder. Conchi for the lead. Nope. And that's not going to do it. Short, and Tompkins takes a knee with 9 seconds remaining.
One more first down Saskatchewan needed to get, and they couldn't get it. Full credit to the Edmonton Eskimos defense, who bent a little bit when they gave up the Corey Grant play. They got the Saskatchewan Roughriders to midfield, but did not break in a key moment. And Danny Barrett's got bigger things on his mind.
Yep. He hit 3 clutch ones from over 40, and that one was going to be a long-range bomb in these conditions.
But I tell you what, I mean, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, with all the starters left at home, they came in and played a very good football game on the road, took it down to the wire.
And the Edmonton Eskimos have one more play in their season. Saskatchewan will finish 9-9 and get set to go to Calgary.
And, you know, and I know there's not a lot of people across the country feeling sorry for the Edmonton Eskimos for missing the playoffs, but with the way their season has gone, you know, it's almost good that they won this one.
They win 2 in a row for the first time all year. Danny Machocha's team wins 7. 7-11. They prevail here 20-18. Danny Barrett and his crew headed to Calgary after a 9-9 regular season.
The CFL on TSN is brought to you by Wendy's, the official hamburger of the CFL. Do Wendy's, do what tastes right. By Rona, proud league-wide sponsor of the CFL. And by Rogers Wireless. Rogers brings you the latest MP3 phones.
Well, it's time now for the TSN Turning Point, brought to you by the 2007 GMC Sierra. This one came early in the third quarter. Ricky Ray finds Jason Tucker for a 29-yard touchdown pass. Ray got to 5,000 yards, and this turned out to be the winning points. Tucker in the end zone, and the Eskimos hang on for the victory. A cash donation will be made to the Coaching Association for the training and development of Canadian coaches on behalf of TSN and the all-new 2007 GMC Sierra. Tomorrow, the CFL on CBC. It's a big one at the Rogers Centre in Toronto. The Alouettes take it on the Argos, a game that will decide first place in the East Division and who gets to host the Eastern Final. Our next game, the last game of the regular season, the Blue Bombers, with a win in Vancouver, will host a playoff game in the East. So lots still to decide. The Rogers player of the game, the Canadian receiver, the rookie, Andy Fantuz, with 110 yards receiving, including that last great catch that he made on the final drive as Saskatchewan tried to get the winning points on a field goal. But you know what? They will go into the playoffs with this loss. But let's be honest here. This win meant more to the Eskimos than it would have to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. On behalf of Chris, Matt, Jock, Dave, Chris, and Glenn at the park, thanks for watching another season of Friday Night Football. We'll see you tomorrow night. Sports Center is now.